My ex-husband is engaged and I'm unwell. And like, even though, yes, it was me that was like, hi, I want divorce. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. It brings up all these feelings. It brings up all this like stuff. And we have a kid and it brings up all this stuff around him.
I want to be a boss bitch. I want to be independent. I don't need a man. I can do this all on my own.
But you cannot just like pretend that it doesn't affect you. And I feel like people should be more out loud about it, because I wish that I had more people that were like totally honest and like super transparent in really difficult times.
Welcome back, family. Today, we're going to review this 37-year-old modern woman who decided to leave her marriage just because she got bored of her husband. Then, she gets jealous and starts to cry when her ex-husband got engaged to a more attractive, younger woman. But before we watch her cry over her ex-husband moving on, I will let her introduce herself so that you guys can see how self-centered she was just after divorcing her husband and understand the level of craziness we are going to have to deal with today.
Oh my God, hi. How are you? It's been so long. Just kidding, we're strangers. And you don't know me. And this is my first video on this page. Did I grab your attention? Probably not, that's okay, you can keep swiping. I'm bored and something is telling me, it's not rational thought, but something is telling me to start talking at myself on the internet and just like, let's see what sticks, you know? Maybe it'll make someone laugh. Maybe it will motivate someone. Maybe it will be inspirational. Or maybe it'll just be like, who is this bitch? It could be any of those things. It could be none of those things, but we won't know unless we try, right? So in the spirit of not giving a fuck, here we are. So who am I? My name is Abby. I am a millennial. I'm also a single parent. I'm divorced. Love living my single era. Have no interest in dating, but do have some good stories. I was almost gonna give away too much. I'm gonna save that one for later. But anyways, back to who am I and why should you stick around. I am on this like journey to discover my life's purpose, and I'm doing lots of different things to try and like sort out what that purpose might be, including watch the movie Soul. And let me tell you, I think the lesson is that like your purpose isn't like the thing you're supposed to be good at, but like the small moments. Did I like totally misinterpret that movie? Because I haven't actually watched the beginning to end in a long time, because my kid again is 5 and has a really small attention span, so we'll start something and then not finish it, so I could be mistaken. But anyways, back to the point. Trying to discover that at 37 years old is crazy. What is it? I don't know. That's what we're gonna figure out, and that's what I'm gonna bring the internet along for. And even if it's just one of you, and possibly my mom, who has burner TikTok accounts apparently, Betsy, whatever, she can see this, it's fine. Anyway, we'll see you around.
I am sure that you heard it for yourselves when she was bragging about how she is enjoying her single life. Well, all that fake happiness went through the window when she learned that her ex-husband just got engaged and has totally moved on happily.
For the sake of being like totally fucking transparent and just like real on social media, because everyone's so fucking phony and like refuses to talk about like real things that are like really happening. I just found out today that my ex-husband is engaged and I'm unwell. And listen, I'll be fine, but the only way out is through, okay? The only way out of this is through it. You cannot bypass it. You cannot suppress it. You cannot wish it didn't exist. You cannot, well, you can wish it didn't exist, but you cannot just like pretend that it doesn't affect you. The only way out is directly through. I know I will be fine. I'm hoping that future me comes back to this and is like, you were gonna be good. You were gonna be fine. And you know it. I know it. I know I will. And like, even though, yes, it was me that was like, hi, I want divorce. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like, literally, hey, sorry, play Taylor Swift. I hate it here. Like, I can't do this anymore.
You fucking dumbass.
Even though
You are
that
fucking
is true,
dumbass.
it can also be true that
Woman.
it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It brings up all these
You're gonna
feelings.
be a cat lady.
It brings up
Good
all
for
this
you.
like stuff, and we have a kid, and it brings up all this stuff around him, and very little of it has anything to do with my actual ex. So, I'm here to be real. I can't live any other way. And I feel like people should be more out loud about it, because I wish that I had more people that were like totally honest and like super fucking transparent in really difficult times. Because this is what like builds connections and like builds like common ground and builds like validity and all this shit that we feel that people just don't talk about, and I fucking hate it. All right, I'm gonna be done because I just, you know, I'll be fine. Everything will be right, but.
Most modern women put on a front on the internet while they actually cry non-stop behind closed doors. This is the reality of most modern women. They are unhappy deep down. And this woman is new to TikTok, and she is just realizing now how much everyone is fake in here. She can clearly see that all these divorced women that are cheering each other up put on a front of being happily divorced. But when she compares that to what is happening in her real life, she came to the conclusion that everyone is just fake and they don't want to talk about their real issues. This is one of the biggest reasons I dedicate this channel to keeping on exposing these modern women, because they are all putting on a front to romanticize divorce so that they can push more women to join them in their misery. I will not stop until I expose every single one of these fake, happy, divorced modern women. Now, the last clip of this woman that we are going to analyze is actually the most important and informative, because it shows how messed up most of these modern women's minds are, how they prefer to follow what makes them feel good at the moment instead of doing the right thing. The clip is a little bit long, so bear with me here. We are going to cut it in 3 parts. The first part will talk about the infamous manifestation stupid theory.
Everybody needs to go to therapy. I know that's not a revolutionary statement, it's probably obvious, but everybody needs to go to therapy. The number of times my mind has been blown by my therapist this year alone, in the last 6 months of working with her, can't count on 2 hands. She's amazing. Not the point. The point is, she gave me a book recommendation last week. This is the most recent thing that has been blowing my mind. So the book is called Essential Kink, and at it, very simply stated, it's a book about shadow work and like, you know, digging into your shadow side, your subconscious, and integrating it with your conscious side or your ego. And one of the repeated themes throughout the book is the following quote: "Having is the evidence of wanting." This book suggests that without actually doing work with your subconscious side and bringing to light some of your shadow side, we won't actually be able to manifest the things that we want and live in this synchronicity with all the positive experiences that we try and manifest in, because we have to address the elephant in your whole being is your subconscious. Going back to having is the evidence of wanting, if we have all of these crappy situations in our life that we can't seem to change, it's because somewhere in us, we actually do want those things.
There you have it. Most of these modern women actually know that deep down, they want the bad boy. They are addicted to the guy that treat them like shit. And that is why they get bored in stable relationships to go chase after Chad and Tyrone. The second part of this clip show how these modern women want to keep their standard high, even though they don't deserve a high-value man.
Listen, I know it sounds a little crazy and maybe controversial to like admit out loud that The bad things that are drawn into our lives might be because somewhere deep down we want those things. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but let me give you a real life example. I like to make what I call the Mary Poppins list. And of course in Mary Poppins, the kids are making a list of attributes for their ideal nanny, what they're looking for. And the dad finds the list, you know, they give it to him, he reads it, he shreds it up and throws it in the goddamn chimney like an asshole. But regardless, those kids made a list and it was essentially like, these are my wishes, this is what I want to manifest. And out pops Mary Poppins. So that's why I call it the Mary Poppins list. But I made one for what I would like my future partner to be. All the qualities, all the traits, all the ways that they will make me feel in the future. Time and time again, I get on these mother dating apps. And is it the men that I'm envisioning that are liking me? It's certainly not. Not to be a dick, and listen, like, there's someone for everyone, but like, it's just not.
There is
not
no
not
someone for everyone. You
They're
dumbass.
like,
What the
just
fuck are you
not
talking
it, like,
about?
So far away from what I want.
Remember
lost
that
the
this is
chance
a
that you have.
37-year-old divorced woman with a kid
And you're
talking.
gonna die
Also
alone.
remember that she was bragging about how she is enjoying her single life era in one of the previous clips. This means that the single life by choice narrative that these women claim is usually fake. They all want to be in a relationship, but the men that they want to be in a relationship with don't want them because they are already used up. The last part of the clip will demonstrate how these modern women get so easily influenced by this fake women empowerment lifestyle that the media has been pushing for decades.
When I actually did some of the work through this book, it became very clear to me that if I actually got the ideal partner that I'm looking for, I would absolutely find a way to sabotage it.
Never,
No
ever.
doubt. Like, I'm willing and able to admit that out loud now. When I kind of
You would never,
went through
ever.
some of the exercises and actually like wrote out why I think my subconscious might really be getting exactly what they want in showing me all of these people that are absolutely not my type, is to reinforce some of the stories that I tell myself. And some of those stories include, I want to be a boss bitch, I want to be independent, I don't need a man, I can do this all on my own. Yes, I embody that. I like that narrative. The other more serious and like a little bit more sad truth behind all of this is, I think deep down, I don't believe I'm actually worthy of the thing that I want. That's depressing, but that's the truth. I think I can say out loud that I don't think that I deserve that. I don't think I'm worthy of that. I don't think, whatever. And that's why I'm in therapy, you guys. Like, so yeah, there's no reason why I shouldn't have exactly what I want, except for that my subconscious doesn't believe that I'm deserving of it. So cool, right? But that's a really honest and real example of a place in my life in which I'm not seeing what conscious Abby thinks she wants, because we have to address what subconscious Abby believes, because we're getting exactly what subconscious Abby believes. It's a wild fucking concept, but I cannot wait to get into the work more regularly, do the exercises regularly, and like start to embrace all of this, because I do believe that on the other side of some of this shadow work and integration with your ego is like actual happiness. It terrifies me, because that would mean that a lot of the stories that I tell myself about who I am would be completely unraveled, and then who am I? So I can't wait to share more with you as I get into that. Keep reading, because I do think that all of this will eventually help me get to what my actual purpose is, because I already think I know what it is, you guys, but I'm fucking terrified of actually saying out loud that I want to do XYZ, because then everything would change. My whole life would change. Anyways, happy Saturday.
It is unfortunate that most women bought this boss babe, I don't need a man mentality. Even though these women know that they don't bring much to the table, they still think that they are better than the regular man, and therefore, they refuse to settle with the average man. This is the very sad state of the modern women today. It is always about how they feel. When you hear a woman saying how much she loves her therapist, just know that the therapist is telling her what she wants to hear and not what she needs to hear. Fellas, do not try to save these types of leftover women, no matter what circumstances you find yourself in. And above all, don't forget to keep your head up, focus on your goals, and everything else will follow. I love you and I appreciate you for all your support. Please feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share to help push this content to more men in need. I'm out. Peace.
What the fuck would I do with a 23-year-old boyfriend if I had one? Would I like take him out to play catch?
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll be discussing reasons why women over 40 are single. One woman shares her sad experience of feeling deceived by feminism, while another talks about her dating encounters with men on apps after turning 40. Before we dive in, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We'd also love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more people. Thanks for being a part of our project. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm 40 and I'm newly single. I live in Vancouver. Long story short to this question is I have not given up on love, but I have given up on online dating. If you're a woman living in Vancouver, you know what I'm talking about. I was just finding that the men on these dating apps in my age group were just not ticking my boxes. And by ticking my boxes, I'm talking about not just like, am I physically attracted to them? Are they physically attracted to me? It means, are we aligned career-wise, family-wise, culturally? How far away do they live from me? I know in Vancouver, you could live like an hour, almost an hour and a half away from somebody, but still call it Vancouver. And when you think you found someone that ticks the boxes, the conversation is so low effort and is so dry. And I did go on some dates where I just didn't feel a connection or they lied about their profile. And it was just draining me. Like, it was draining for my self-esteem. It was draining on my time. It was just very draining. Honestly, Vancouver's the worst for dating. Like, the men here versus the women in the city. This city is full of gorgeous, successful, beautiful women. And I'm gonna get so much hate for this, but I feel like the women in Vancouver are doing charity work.
She aspires to more than she can actually obtain. Simply saying that doesn't meet my standards is enough for me to understand why she's single. Because if you're 40 and childless, you should reassess those standards as they won't get you anywhere. Modern women are frustrated with dating apps simply because they can't access the men they desire. Men should understand that women believe they deserve more than their looks can get them. I said this a while back. Let's imagine Tinder as a restaurant. The best dishes are high-value men, and a woman's beauty is her money. If a woman orders the most expensive dish but pays with her beauty card, she knows the transaction will be declined. Instead, she's offered a free glass of water. Brothers, the wall doesn't forgive.
So there's this new article out that talks about how birth rates in the U.S. are at the lowest that they've ever been in the entire history of the U.S. Millennials are not having kids. I think there's a few reasons why that is. The first being millennials are one of the first generations to not have this intense societal pressure from older generations and from their peers to have children. Our parents' generation, which is oftentimes baby boomers, were having kids because nobody wasn't having kids. Like, it's just what you were supposed to do. I don't think there's a lot of critical thinking that even went into decisions like marriage and like having kids, the same way that millennials are thinking about them today. You see people dating for a lot longer before they get married. You see people wanting to live with their significant other to see what that's like before they get married. You see people being married for longer before they even start having children, or just not having children at all. Zero children households are skyrocketing the past several years. And I think this should be exciting and empowering, because long are the days where you had to follow one single path. You had to do the marriage, the kids thing, and settle down and really do that the rest of your life. I think there's a lot of people realizing that if that's not something you want to do, they're empowered to change careers, to travel the world, to embrace a variety of different lifestyles that wouldn't be possible if you have kids. Cost of living everywhere has also just gone through the roof compared to our parents' generation, and so people are being a lot more thoughtful about making sure they can be healthy and live their best lives and do the things that they want to do, and not necessarily be bogged down with the responsibilities of a child. Child care costs have also skyrocketed in the last few years. So having a child itself, you have to be pretty well off in order to do that, or that has to be something that you really, really value and really commit to, because you're giving up a lot of things. There's way more I could talk about with this article. It's super interesting. It just came out from the Washington Post this week, so highly recommend you take a look.
There are many reasons why a woman might not have children, and they are valid reasons. Some couples choose not to have children, but they are the minority. However, the increase in both single men and women nowadays is greater than ever before. Divorce laws that ruin men, alimony laws, and problems with judges regarding a man's right to see his children are reasons why men don't want to get married. Many don't want children because why have a child if a judge might decide they can only see them once a month or not at all, and they'll just have to pay for them every month. Another issue is women's standards. In the past, a woman could only aspire to a man in her town, state, or community. Nowadays, with social media, a woman has men interested from all over the country, even different parts of the world. This leads to simps, and they start to believe they deserve more than their actual beauty can get them. Now, a man isn't just competing with someone from his community, but with the men that woman sees on Instagram who she thinks she deserves. And unlike men, when a woman has many options, she is never satisfied because she starts comparing each man to the others, making it impossible for any of them to meet her requirements. These are just a few reasons. If I continue, we won't finish the video today. But check out the experiences of the women in the next video and tell me if they're happier being single as they claim nowadays.
So I just watched a TikTok post of a woman who said everything that I'm thinking, but I've never shared. And it's about being older and being single and not having children. It's pretty hard. It's harder to say. And I never speak out about it. It's a difficult thing knowing that you're living this life without children and without anybody there. I'm single. Dating has been tough, and being in a relationship is a big stink. A little while back, a few weeks ago, I suffered a mild heart attack, and I had to take an Uber to the hospital, to the ER. And being a nurse, I had a feeling it was a heart attack, and it was the worst feeling in the world. Sitting there on the curb, waiting for an Uber to come and pick me up. I didn't think I was going to make it, and it was just disheartening to not have anybody there but an Uber driver to take me to the ER. So let me go back to the post that this woman made, and it was about being older and alone and suffering mentally with this of being alone, not having children, and just the woes of it all. It's like, I go to work, I do what I have to do to survive, and it's a struggle just to wake up every day knowing I'm going to work just to pay my bills and then...
Now tell me, do you see this woman as strong and independent? Because it seems to me that she regrets the life she has had, regrets where she is now. It's very nice to have feminist speeches when you're 20, but when you're 40 or 50, you know that you could die tomorrow and no one cares, because neither your parents are alive nor have your siblings called you in years. That's when you realize the importance of family. Look, this woman had a wake-up call. She realized that there was no one in her phone to call. That's very tough, having to call an Uber, a stranger, to help you. But even worse is being in a hospital and no one shows concern for you. So when I hear women say they don't need a man, that they don't want children to take care of them when they're old, it's not about being taken care of when you're old. It's about having someone at home waiting for you to come back through that door. She says some mornings she doesn't even feel like getting up. It's easy to say travel, I have more money, but what's the point? What do you spend it on? No matter how much the hair-colored movement tries to sell you another idea, a woman's greatest achievement is bringing life into the world. Everything else fades away, leaves no difference in this world. But bringing a life into this world makes a difference, both for you and for that child of yours. Let's see the next part.
And it's a struggle just to wake up every day knowing I'm going to work just to pay my bills and then what? Like, I'm struggling with this every day. I'm getting older. My health has failed me, and who's gonna be there for me? I feel like us women who are in the same boat, and there's a lot of us out there, I know there are, I just want to hear it because I feel like sometimes I'm alone in all of this. And I would like to know that there's other women out there who are in the same boat. And gosh, I would love to get a commune or just get a bunch of women together. I wanted to buy land. I mean, it's so astronomical right now to buy something. The prices of land here in Utah and homes, it's just astronomical. I can't afford it. Can't afford it. And I would much rather be with a group of women anyhow.
Go ahead
have,
then,
like,
old lady.
funds
Go ahead.
and come together and build something together. I would love to do that. And I'm a nurse. I can go anywhere, and I'm willing to. I've been challenged lately with these thoughts of just being alone. And like that woman said, and I wish I could stitch her video, but I'm kind of an ignoramus and I don't know how to do that, so I'm just, hopefully she'll find me on here. But I'm there, I'm with her, and I'd like to hear from more women, to hear if you're going through this too, because I feel so alone. I feel so alone. It's like you wake up every day and go to work, and is that what life's all about? I don't know. All my friends have their lives and families, and I don't have anybody. What do I do for the holidays? I'm alone. I'm alone. I have been for a long time, and I'm kind of over it. So, please reach out. Let me know what everybody thinks. I was kind of afraid to post this video, but after watching that video, I kind of felt more empowered, and I hope that we can empower each other and
You're really
each other
cool,
out.
man. You need to empower
So,
each other.
Yeah.
Wow, independent.
Let me know.
That's why I tell you not to be deceived by the stories they sell on social media. Traveling alone, eating alone, always being alone, doing everything alone. It might be fun for a while, but after years of the same, it gets boring, loses its meaning. Then they tell us they're the happiest when single. This woman seems like she was beautiful when she was young, but what led her to this? I don't know her life, but every decision you make, you have to live with it. This woman could have been with an average man. There are thousands of single men who would have been happy to have a woman like her. But surely her standards didn't allow her to consider men who could have given her a family. Maybe she focused on her career or simply wanted a man at her level. Because only men can be with women who are economically inferior to them. But women will never look at a man who earns less money unless he's physically very attractive. Or who knows, maybe she gave her best years to the Chad. A man brings nothing to the table but his seed. But I doubt it, because at least a baby leaves the Chad. So why do you think, brothers, this woman ended up like this?
Alright. How about you and I have a chat? Before we get started,
Wow,
I feel like
what
I
a
need to show you this
vehicle.
view.
This year, my broadband is playing up. I think the routers.
Anton, stick to the script, please.
Sorry. Discover an epic struggle to work out why my ice dancing shows won't stream.
Anton, the script.
Watch this film when...
Okay, so I rejoined Tinder like 5 days ago, and I
Nice
don't have
for
much to
you.
report other than the fact that I've
Looking
received
for a
many
cup.
an eggplant emoji, and by mistake, someone sent me a text that was meant for someone else that essentially delved into my deepest and darkest nightmares. So, it didn't match. But yeah, nothing much to report on that front. And a lot of you came across me because I am a 40-year-old woman. I am single. I've been single for 3 years. I don't have any kids. And I just like to talk about my experiences living in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So for those of you who haven't gone way down in my feed and listened to some of the stories of my dating experiences, I thought I would try to summarize it in 3 minutes or less. I have been on over 30 first dates, so 30 first dates with 30 different gentlemen, and I have some stories to tell. What I'm going to try to do is give you one thing about the most memorable and basically explain why there wasn't a second date. Okay, so here we go. I went out with 3 different individual guys separately, all in their early 40s, who had the exact same story. They each told me that they were all left on their 40th birthday by their partners because their partners cheated on them, and that's how they found out. And what's strange about that is that all 3 of them had the exact same story, so I almost think that there's some sort of secret messaging, Facebook group or something for guys in their 40s who are trying to pull heartstrings when they're newly single. And maybe that story works. It did not work on me. 0 out of 3 times. I went on a date with a guy who claimed to be 5'9", and he ended up being 5'4" when he showed up. This same guy came in from out of town and assumed he was going to stay at my house after the date. This guy, I would say gentleman, slept in his car. I went out with a guy who fell asleep on the date at the restaurant. In his defense, he was a resident, so he was pretty tired coming off shift and might have had too much to drink. I went out with a guy within 20 minutes of us going for a walk, because this was during COVID, asked if he could look at and touch my feet. I went out with another guy who claimed he'd never really learned how to kiss anybody and he wanted me to teach him. I went out with a guy who took me to his mom's house and showed me the illegal grow-op he had in her basement. I went out with a guy who I made cry on the first date, and honestly, that's on me. I turned into a therapist and just dove a little too deep. And I'm so sorry, but we need to do a part 2 because there's so much more.
Literally, there are men who need to improve their game because I can't really crucify them here. That's why I always say, having an idea of how to develop a date without too many expectations can be the best approach. Remember, Women are just another human being, so don't be so nervous. Another thing, brothers, when you're on a date, I've seen a lot of men do this. They want to tell the woman their whole life story, speak ill of their ex-girlfriends or wives, or start bragging about being a high-value man. Or they go into it with the perspective that if the first woman accepts a date, she'll be their wife or girlfriend. That's too desperate and shows you're needy. Don't do this. Because if a girl does that to you, you'd think she has mental problems. Leave some mystery in your life. Just because your life may be a mess doesn't mean it has to be public. As Kevin Samuels used to say, don't be a crybaby telling your story. Keep your feelings to yourself. Share them with a friend, not a woman you're trying to impress. Another thing, women at 40, even on the wall, still have dates. It's ironic who they attract, though. Brothers, what do you think about the loneliness of women, this epidemic of singleness?
Are you staring at my breasts?
No. Press out. Are you looking at my dick? I'll put my dick right in front of your fucking
Welcome
face.
to the wall. In today's video, we'll see how a single mother says that women are not to blame if the father turns out bad. Another one advises on how to date her. And a single mother shares how her life improves after leaving her husband. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you like what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We'd also love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
Now this is specifically for everyone on here
What
who
a
hates on
makeup,
single mums.
man. Wow.
Being a single
These people
mum
are just as
is a
stupid,
flex.
right?
And
Look
you
at her.
cannot convince me otherwise. It is
Yeah,
hard enough
right.
being a parent when the two of you are together and living in the same household.
Because you
Until
do one
you have
night
done it on
stand and
your
you don't
own,
give a
you
fuck.
have no idea how hard it is.
Single
No,
mom
I
is
am
a
absolutely
kind
not
of a
complaining. I
job
wouldn't
in
change it for the
UK.
world. What I really want
know
to do
that
is
really
get rid
well.
of this stigma that single mothers have, that
Don't
they're
complain.
a failure, that they're a red flag because they're not with the baby daddy anymore. When in actual fact, it's the complete opposite because she's
She's
brave enough to
needed
do
that.
it all by herself.
If not, they're
And that
gonna
goes for
join,
single dads too. I could
only
have stayed in
fans.
my marriage, but where would I be now? Still crying myself to sleep every night. And as my daughter's getting older and older, she's paying more attention to the way her dad is treating me. And before anyone says, well, maybe you should have picked a better partner in the beginning, they're never like that in the beginning. To all my other mummies out there, single or not, I see you. You are doing an amazing job.
Brothers, if tomorrow I ask for a loan from the bank, spend it having fun in the streets and nightlife, and end up ruined with debt, is it my fault or the lender's fault for lending me the money? You could say it's wrong for the lender to be foolish enough to give me that money, and it's wrong for me to take that money to have fun knowing I won't be able to pay it back. That's how single mothers are. They choose the man with whom they want to have children, usually the classic Chad, a man who brings nothing to the table except his seed. This man, who is usually the love of their life and brings good genes to the table, they want to have their children with him. After this classic Chad leaves, they complain because the world doesn't accept their victim card. We all know it was their decision to have their children. They're old enough to go to protest against abortion, to shout, "My body, my choice," but not to accept that it was their choice to get pregnant by this man. Even though they don't see anyone blaming the man for this, because a man who is raising his children, usually if he chooses the woman with whom to have them, won't complain if the mother decides to abandon them tomorrow. He just gets to work and takes on his responsibility as a father without much fuss. But the woman has to shout to the rooftops that she is a victim. That's why I say responsibility is kryptonite for women.
One thing I don't play about is my mama. I knew when I originally posted the video, if anybody paid attention to it, that there might end up being some comments alluding to the fact that my mother had information about my paternity that she was not divulging to me at the time. My mom went through some seriously traumatic situations when she was younger. Situations that you and I would never understand. Situations that should have resulted with people being put underneath the jail. That coupled with her age, lack of maturity, coming from a small town, participating in recreational activity. I have no doubt that my mom has been honest with me through this entire process. The biggest reason, with all of those things set aside, is from the date of my conception even up until this day, My father has tormented the fuck out of her. Retrospectively, I can't imagine a universe where my mom would willingly participate in what transpired between her and my father.
How to get the most of Grammarly free. It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you
Do you guys really understand what she's saying? I don't think so.
If it was an option to alleviate him from the picture, then I'm sure that's what she would have done. Then and now, I would not have any space to fault her for that.
In a video, we saw how this woman discovers that the man who raised her is not her father. She wants, after gaining fame with the story, to give her mother a makeover. The problem is that the mother pinned the pregnancy on her boyfriend, who was her father. She realized she wasn't his daughter now with the DNA test. There were indications that she wasn't the daughter of this man because her siblings are white, and she has more features like the child of an interracial couple. Still, the man raised her, supported her. He might not have done it with love, but he didn't shirk his responsibility. She portrays him as the villain when it was the mother who, supposedly, doesn't remember who she was with. At that time, the man was her boyfriend, so he must have been the father. You know the story, throwing the stone and hiding the hand. Cheating on my boyfriend with someone of another race, very common in this country. After I'm pregnant, I say it's from my boyfriend, Mr. Simps. Now she talks about how her mother was an unstable girl who suffered abuse. In short, her life was a mess. Like any woman who is a mess, she brought chaos into her father's life, and in the worst way, by pinning the child of Chad on him. Brothers, this story that a woman doesn't know who she got pregnant by is a lie. She knows how many men she's been with. It's better to cover her lies with, I have amnesia and don't remember, than to confess to the man she was with. But as I've always said in this country, the man, even with evidence in hand, has to fight to prove his innocence. Now she wants to portray him as the villain, but not the mother who couldn't be faithful. You can't make this crap up, brothers.
So, let me tell you why it's so hard to date a single mom and to date while being a single mom. So I recently met this guy while I was out, met him in the wild, everything was great, he was super cute, we were vibing, he got my number, and then we continued to talk afterwards. Now the problem with this is I only have certain days that I can see someone. There might even be a week or two that goes by where I just cannot see you. And in the early stages of dating, that is very hard and detrimental to, you know, your dating life, because if you can't keep a conversation going through, you know, text messages or phone calls, FaceTimes, whatever, I'm going to get bored. And I know people say like you really shouldn't text that much early on, but I have no choice, unfortunately, because I have every Friday night free. My daughter is with her dad every Friday night. But I can't expect that people are going to be free those days. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. So like I said, maybe a week or two will go by where I can't see you. And for me, in the early stages of dating, I am not going to get a babysitter. I'm not going to ask my mom. I'm not going to do any of that for someone who I don't feel is worth it. And I know that sounds harsh, but I don't know you. I'm not taking time away from my daughter. Later on, if we decide that things are going well and we really get along, I don't have a problem getting a babysitter, but then it's a no for me. So back to the guy. I found that our conversations were just very lackluster. He was very surface level. It was pretty much, hey, how was work? How was your day? Every day. And I just feel like as adults, babe, our days are the same. I wake up, I get my daughter ready for school, give her breakfast, drive her to school, go to work, come home, have dinner, bath, bedtime. It is a revolving door of the same day. And I think most adults can relate to that statement. So if you're not trying to ask me questions, getting to know me, this, that, and the third, I'm bored. I don't want to talk anymore. So I had to tell him, like, listen, you're great, but this isn't going to work out. I need a ping pong back and forth kind of conversation. And if I don't have that, for me personally, it's just not going to work out. Some people like that. I personally do not. So the search continues, and just know if you're going to try to pursue or date a single mother, this is how it's going to be. So.
Dating a single mother is a bad idea, plain and simple. This woman will never see you as a priority because her children are her priority, and that's valid. Secondly, you have to understand that there will be 3 people in that bed, you, her, and the father of her child. This means that the seed's owner, the Chad, will be watching to make sure you take good care of his seed. Furthermore, it's complicated to make time for yourself with this woman, let alone maintain her interest. Thirdly, you'll have to get along with her children, who typically resent the stepfather because, let's be totally honest, no one wants to see another man doing their mom's job, especially if your mom has terrible taste like a classic Chad. This woman isn't saying anything bad. She's simply telling you what it would be like to try to win her over instead of her making an effort to find a beta provider. She expects you to put in the effort for her. The problem is, you're not as much of a prize as you might have been before, and secondly, you come with baggage, so it's double the effort to deal with you. Brothers, avoid chaos in your life.
Truth is, when you're dating a girl that's very, very independent, she's probably always going to say no anytime you ask her, does she need anything? And as toxic as you may think that is, we all have our baggage. And then when you are in a relationship, you work through that trauma with that person if that's the person that you decided to be with. So if you want to help her to stop being so prideful in that sense, and yes, she needs to be working on her trauma too if she is overly independent. I have to say things for clarity. But anyways, if you feel like you want to do something for her, just do it. Take that initiative, because when she sees you taking that initiative, it'll make her more comfortable and more trusting, and she'll feel like she can depend on you a little bit more. And just for clarity, independence is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But too much of anything can become a bad thing.
When I hear a woman say she carries a lot of baggage, it means she's been through several Chads, which indicates she's been on an emotional carousel. This leads to one of two things. Either she's very bossy or controlling, or she's extremely jealous and makes a problem out of everything. Many of these women who have been with these men should first go to therapy because they need to detox from the Chad in order to form a healthy bond with another man. But many don't do that. That's why when you get involved with a woman like this, you're only going to suffer because she'll make you pay for all the bad things the Chad did to them. These very independent women tend to have a lot of masculine energy. They're used to doing everything on their own, so you won't be able to lead in the relationship because there will always be this power struggle. You'll have all the responsibility with her, but never the leadership. Unfortunately, responsibility without authority simply amounts to slavery.
If you bought a car between 2014 and 2021, go put your registration plate number in this form because you might be eligible for compensation on your car loan. The average claim value is just over £5,000. Of course, a lot of people are comparing these car loan claims to PPI, and even though it's not the same, the process is kind of similar. Now, if you want to see if you have a claim, all you need to do is click the link in this video and you'll spend about 2 minutes filling out the form so you can put it in where your loan was from, the plate number and your address, that kind of stuff. And then the finance claims expert team will get back to you to let you know if you have a claim or not. The average claim is about £5,000 and some have gone as high as £10,000. And a lot of the lenders involved have already put aside hundreds of millions of pounds to prepare you for this. It's totally free to check and it's...
Today a guy on TikTok asked why after a woman gets divorced, why she starts to look better, why she loses weight, and why didn't she put all that effort in when they were still married to them? Go ahead and state your answer. I'm going to tell you mine. When I was married, I had 2 young children, and one has special needs, and I had these 2 dogs, and no fence, and a large house, and a husband, and I just was overwhelmed to the point where there was no respite. And there was a mom group every maybe like month or 2, but there was no respite, and I was worn out. And one morning, the guy that was coming in to put the underground fence in and then train the dogs, I threw on some sweats. I barely got any, my hair was all crazy. And I opened the door, and I've got one kid on my arm, and I've got another one that's in the bathroom needing help, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm a mess right now, but come in, and you can get started with the dogs. And he said, you know how you can tell the alpha dog? And I get it, this guy trains dogs for a living, and so this was the best metaphor he could come up with, although somewhat backhanded, but I got it. He said, you see, the alpha dog is in charge of all the dogs. And the most stress and the most pressure is on them for survival, for providing food, for finding the means for it, for doing all of it. They don't get a break. They just go. That part I related to. Not the alpha dog so much, but I understood where he was going. And while things got revealed in time about the man that I was married to and why I was not going to allow things to go on that were being done to me, in the absence of my knowing they were going on, was the catalyst. But after that separation, I started to get weekends and time for myself. What? Not just like maybe a day every other month or something. And then reassessing my, the things I like to do and people that I started to become better friends with. And pretty soon I was in a career after some time and thriving and finding myself. And the thought of giving up all that work I put in to allow that to happen again kind of stops me in my tracks because I value my peace. I just value my peace now. But it also kind of reminds me of when Cher's mom looked at her and said, Cher, why not just marry a rich man and settle down? And Cher looked at her mom and she said, Mom, I am a rich man. Well, Mom, I am an alpha dog. I don't need another one. I run this pack just fine on my own. It's taken that long.
You know what also happens? Many women, when they're married, hate the idea of staying at home. They're bothered by the thought of doing anything for their husband. I know it's not easy raising children, but it's not the worst task in the world either. If you can manage your time with chores, you can have more time for yourself. What bothered you is the idea of being at home, having to take care of the man. Once they leave, they start doing things for themselves because they have to do them. They don't have anyone to complain to. But there were solutions they surely do now that they're divorced. But when married, they don't want to do anything. That's why it bothers me when women say everything is the man's fault. It's the man's fault if you gain 30 pounds. It's the man's fault if you can't do your chores. It's the man's fault if you have to deal with your feelings. It's the man's fault for every complaint they have because they can't take responsibility for their own situations. They have to blame the man and make him feel miserable for every situation they're in. And what happens to the man? Taking care of a house, supporting 2 children and a wife, having to work day in and day out, dealing with work situations. The worst part is coming home to someone who only wants to tell you how their life is hell because of you. And beware if they don't give you that crap about postpartum depression or start feeling like nobody loves them. Or they get those weird crises when they have children. Because guess who will also be to blame? The man, clearly. That's why you see when a man gets divorced, his life starts to get better because it's a heavy burden to always have to endure someone else's miseries, especially their emotional situations.
If you're a single man over 40, looking for a relationship but not using dating sites, where do you go to search for your potential partner? Let me know.
Don't even think about life insurance until you've heard this. You know, many people in the life insurance industry are absolutely furious about this little-known policy that's really rocked the industry with its immediate day one cover. See, you can now get up to £300,000 to help cover any debts, like a mortgage, or perhaps leave a substantial gift to your family, and of course help cover any funeral costs as well, with immediate coverage from day one for any accidental death, giving you peace of mind right away. Unlike other providers, there are no intrusive blood tests. Now, nearly everyone can qualify for guaranteed low-cost coverage, even if you're a smoker. This is an absolute must if you want to help protect your loved ones from outrageous skyrocketing costs. And these new plans start from as little as £2.50 a week. That's what, just 32 pence a day. Click the blue button under this video right now to learn more. You know, if we've learned anything over the past 3 years or so, it's that life is unpredictable. None of us knows how long this financial crisis is going to last or if prices will ever come down. But you can help to protect your family from another crippling debt by getting coverage that's flexible. See, it's guaranteed money paid quickly to your family at the time that they need it most. So they've got one less thing to worry about at an already emotional and very difficult time. For just £2.50 a week, that's less than the price of a cup of coffee. You can help remove so much financial worry from your loved ones. So don't put this off. We all know that one day, well, we're all going to need a funeral, and that's why putting cover in place to leave a cash sum for your family, which is going to help protect them financially, makes so much sense. You can get peace of mind starting from just £2.50 a week. Click below to learn more about this life insurance designed only for UK residents. Protect your loved ones from a financial shock when your time comes.
welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll explore why many women say they don't have children and delve into their reasons for not choosing to have them. We'll address a question from a woman asking others who haven't had children about their lives, particularly their experiences with singleness in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We'd also love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being a part of our project. Let's get started.
Child-free women over 40. Question. Do you regret, truthfully, do you regret your child-free by choice decision? I'm asking you, honestly and openly, because that's what misogynistic men say to child-free by choice women. Wait till you're 40, wait till you're 50. Like some mystic Meg, they apparently can see into the future of child-free by choice women. And even though the stats actually have proven, stats, this is not opinion, this is fact, that child-free by choice unmarried women are the happiest subgroup of people in the population, they still don't want to believe it. So let's actually ask child-free by choice women, do they truly regret their decision? And let's see and go from there. Stitch this or leave a comment below.
This was an article that came out a long time ago with no study behind it. Besides, women are happier single. If you ask me, I think I would say it depends on the woman. If it's the influence of Instagram selling us their great life, but in their real life, they see something else happening. For example, it's not the same for a single woman in her 40s who was a beauty in her youth, still looks good at that age, and earns more than $80,000 a year. With no expenses, she'll live her life in a superficial way. Perhaps she'll always appear happy from the outside. Now, what happens when that woman is the opposite? She's unattractive and poor. At 40, she's even uglier, tired from work, with a lamentable life, ending up in therapy taking antidepressants. What they don't say is that the biggest consumers of antidepressants are women. Adult content increased by 29% in women, according to the most viewed page. The business of fertilization and sperm sales is growing, leaving millions to doctors. Who buys these services? Women. So, how can they be so happy if they have to resort to this to stay normal at 40? The Wall doesn't forgive.
I have a question, and it's a very specific question, and if this doesn't apply to you, then please scroll past. But if you are 40s and up, so 40s, 50s, 60s, even more than that, if you are 40s and up and a woman, or even a woman with a partner who has gone their entire life childless, please tell me what your life is like now, because I've been told multiple times by family members, family friends, sometimes friends, but pretty rarely, that once I get older and I can't have kids anymore, or I choose not to have kids, once I get older, I'm going to see my friends have kids, and I'll either be jealous that I'm not having kids that are interacting with them, or that I'll lose out on something, or that, I'll be older and I'll be sad because I don't have, children around me and grandchildren. I need to know from someone who I envision myself being later on in life. I need to know specifically from someone who is, either in their 40s or beyond, either around that age or retiring or whatever, that you are either happy with your life, or give me the cold hard truth. Let me know how you feel. I want to know, do you feel like you lost out? Do you feel like you're confident and happy with your choice? I want to know the actual truth on this, because I'm tired of having that same thing told to me, and I need to know from somebody else what their thoughts are on that, and if I'm going to be missing out on something. And because I just, at this point in my life, I don't want kids, and it could change. Tell me if you think you made the right decision.
I'll answer your question with a question. How would you like to die? Alone in a hospital in old age, needing care for an illness with no support, seeing at 70, if you're not healthy, that you're a person nobody visits? Or be the woman whose husband and children are by your hospital bed, watching over you because they love you? The woman who sees her grandchildren and children, whom she raised to be good people in society. The person who wasn't sent to a nursing home but stayed at home with her children and grandchildren because you're an important part of their lives, dying knowing that you've left behind an entire generation. That's what you should ask yourself, because many women only show you what they want to sell you. As they say, if you start believing everything you see on social media, you'll start feeling depressed because you don't have that life of travel and luxury they sold you on Instagram. But what they don't tell you is that only 5% of the population can do that. The other 95% of the world can't even afford to travel within their own country. If you don't believe me, look at the following women by age range who ended up alone, and tell me if their lives were grand.
Question, and it's a very specific question, and
So I've been thinking about this ever since I saw it a couple of days ago, so much that I decided to record my very first TikTok. So the question is for women in their 40s and up who made a choice not to have children. What are our lives like now? And so like this is what my life is like now. Cute little baby snuggling, but really the real answer that I've been sort of thinking about is one of the things you hear the most when you decide not to have children is, well, who will take care of you when you get older, or who will be with you when you pass, make sure your aging isn't lonely, all of that. And as I was starting to really decide whether or not I wanted to have children, the thought struck me that if that's the only reason you want to have children, because you want somebody to be there for you as you age, that's very selfish. But then I also thought that's also, you can't control any of those things. Like, there's no guarantee that if your child, if you have a child, will live past you, want or be able to take on the responsibility of taking care of you, want to have a relationship with you, all of that. So then over the years, I've just spent a lot of time thinking about, like, what can I control about my life? What do I want? What do I want my life to be like? And it's sort of like cultivating all of these small moments every day that are truly aligning with like my values and fulfilling for me. It feels a bit like a lot of like mindfulness philosophies where I get to invest fully and solely in my peace and what makes me happy and feel fulfilled, without having to think about anybody else. And I get to try to control those small everyday moments that will help my life be fulfilled, when much of, not to say that for other people having a child isn't very fulfilling, but there's a lot that you can't control about what that provides to your life. So I get to focus on what I can control as much as I can. I hope that made sense. Bye.
Many people say that typical phrase that having children is only about thinking who will take care of you when you grow old. But the reality is that having children is much more than expecting someone to wipe your backside when you're old. It's about knowing that you raised someone with values, knowing that your genes continue to exist in generations, knowing that there's a man or woman who was part of your family, who now makes you part of the one they formed. It's about living great moments with your children, because apparently, people talk about how tired they are, but rarely do you see a parent say they wish they didn't have them. This is only said by those who never had one. Also, here's another thing about the deception these women sell. If a poor man tells you he wasn't rich because he didn't want to be, but you see that he has no talent, no university degree, would you believe that was true? Of course not, because that person wasn't even close to it. The same thing happens with a woman who doesn't have a marriage or a partner by 40 and says she never wanted children. That decision was made by you and your partner, or it was something life forced you to choose. Because it's not the same, right? The wall doesn't forgive, because many say they don't want children, but end up raising expenses and dogs. They treat them as if they were their children, even dressing them up. Now, that's something really crazy.
53 years old and I don't have kids. This comes with every type of response you could imagine. But who's going to take care of you when you get old? That's what we're put on this earth for. You're so selfish. You don't know true joy until you have a child. What do you do with all your free time? Do you regret it now that you're older? The simple answer is no. I understand people say things with the best of intention and perhaps based off what works for their lives. But many women have chosen not to have children or can't have them. All of us have a different path. I love children, and I think I would have been an amazing mom, but I have no regrets at all. I have an incredible nephew, I mentor younger women, I have a big loving family, and a fulfilled life. My worth in this world is more than just any one title, and yours is too.
Who's that Pokemon?
Now we see the typical woman who achieved success, changed her entire love life for career success. But what she doesn't tell you is that she went through 2 divorces, probably for this reason. These are the ones who live on the carousel, living their lives just spinning around money, living superficially, jumping from one relationship to another in their lives. They're the typical spinster aunt described in movies, going from one wealthy man to another with a great career and house. I won't say that being single with financial success is bad, but it's empty. I bet she'll take antidepressants or has already had to go to therapy at some point in her life. I assure you, many of those around her are people who seek or receive some benefit from her. Like every single woman without children, I assure you she's a feminist. Just hearing that she's a mentor tells me everything. She's spreading her misery. Brothers, the wall doesn't forgive. Don't be fooled. Look at how these women end up in the next video.
Do you have kids?
No.
Do you get shit from people for not having kids?
I don't get shit. You get attitude. I just don't pay that much attention to it. Yeah, it's always weird, especially because I've worked in transnational feminist work for most of my life for the past 50 years, and so I travel a lot all over the world, and especially in other cultures. You know, New York is very different, right? But in other places you go and the first question people ask you as a woman is, how many kids do you have? You know, where are your kids? And so that's not shit, but it's an expectation that you have to constantly be saying, I don't have kids, and then, you know, people are kind of thinking, what's wrong with you? But yeah.
Have you heard of transnational feminists? I had never heard of this, but what I understand is that they live spreading their misery across the country. In other words, she couldn't have children, so now she's ensuring that others don't either. When you see people saying, I live traveling, when they're single, it's because they don't have any stability. They always have to be changing places. These are the ones whose friends got married and started distancing themselves. They're the ones who have to join different activities, usually feminist ones, just to have something to do. Or they're the ones who constantly complain about anything a man does. The wall doesn't forgive. If these are the people they call the happiest in the world, then happiness has become impoverished. Do you think that woman with children would have traveled so much or gotten into feminism? Because most feminists over 30 are usually women without husbands, and most of them don't have sons. Every woman has access to interactions with men in her life, whether it's brothers, sons, fathers, or husbands. They never belong to this movement. Why do you think that is? I've already told you, they always envy what they can't have. The wall doesn't forgive.
You guys, I was literally just walking, and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my god, it hurts so bad. I can't even talk. Literally, I fell to the ground, and now this giant goose egg is forming, and I'm like, oh my god, it looks so crazy.
Voxy Mobile's unlimited social media is great.
Because you can see everyone's holiday snaps and feel like you're there even though you're not there.
Yeah, and it's only a tenner.
The fun never ends with unlimited social media on Voxy Mobile. Selected social apps in UK, TNCs apply.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll be looking at how some women are being assaulted on the streets, or some have been punched in the face, how this has become something fun for many, and how the victims express their fears and concerns. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you like what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. We'd also love to hear your experiences in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
I just got punched in the face walking home. I was literally like leaving class. I turned the corner and I was looking down and I was looking at my phone and like texting, and then out of nowhere, this man just came up and hit me in the face. You guys, I was literally just walking and a man came up and punched me in the face. Oh my god, it hurts so bad. I can't even talk. literally I fell to the ground, and now this giant goose egg is forming, and I'm like, oh my God.
I literally just got punched by some man on the sidewalk. He goes, sorry, and then punches me in the head. Holy fuck, what the hell just happened?
Apparently, there's a flying punch in New York. This is serious, but it has slowly turned into a joke for other women who are mocking it. Several girls have received the flying punch to the face. It's just that nowadays, many of these women walk the streets without any caution. I know it's not their fault, but you have to take care of yourself. You can reply to the simps when you're at home, not walk around with your phone in hand everywhere looking down at the ground. Apparently, when they lift their heads, they receive a tremendous punch. She's complaining that the men around her aren't doing anything. The truth is, men now avoid all problems. They've left all gestures of chivalry at home.
Okay, just want to give an update on getting punched in the face. I said I was done fucking crying on the internet, and here I am. But yeah, I am going to the hospital. I feel like I'm probably, oh my God, it looks like I have a fucking devil horn. Honestly, that's kind of fitting. Anyway, yeah, I was just walking on the sidewalk and my head was down. I was like looking at my phone, just sending an email, but there was so much room on the sidewalk and like literally nobody was around. And I guess this man, I don't know if he punched me or if he owed me. I literally passed out. So I don't really remember, but I think he just was really mad that my head was down. He was walking a dog. So he took it upon himself to body check me and let me know to be conscious of my surroundings, which now I fucking will be. And then I fell to the ground and I like literally blacked out for a second, but then I got up and he was screaming at me, and I was just like scared, so I literally just ran away. And then I was like, wait, am I crazy? Like, what the fuck just happened? And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, I'm going to just urgent care. That's probably so fucking drama. I could put some frozen peas on it and be fine, but everybody's like, go to urgent care. And since I did black out for a second, maybe just in case I have a concussion or something, I don't know, we'll see.
She walks around with her phone like zombies, not looking or paying attention to her surroundings. It's unfortunate that this happens to her. I don't agree with any act of violence, whether towards a man or a woman, but this girl is in New York. She should understand that she needs to take care of herself. There are too many people nowadays, and you never know what someone's mental state is. There are literally people wandering the streets bored. This girl with her phone addiction doesn't even look around, which is why some get run over. But this is unfortunate because it's taken as a joke. Some seem to be making videos for attention, while others like this girl are true victims. But look at the next video, where something serious becomes a joke because now there are these videos of other girls goofing around. So, how do you take a victim's word seriously?
I'm like shaking, trying to tell this story, but if you know me, I don't share my personal life on the internet, especially things that are traumatic. But too many videos have been made about what's going on for me not to speak out. I was punched in the head in New York City on Saturday, March 23rd. In Times Square. I was walking out of the Times Square station, train station, and a random man came up and punched me in the head. Thankfully, I'm not as hurt as the girls that you've seen, the videos that you've seen. I'm a little bit sore, but thank God it wasn't worse than that. But it was definitely a traumatic experience, and it's something that is going to stick with me for the rest of my life now. But I can't believe that this is happening. I have a video of the guy because when I ran away from him, there were these 3 women on the street that helped me. Shout out to those moms from Connecticut. I don't know where you guys are, but I'm so grateful that you guys were there at the moment because I don't think I could have done that alone. But I turned around at the moment and he was running after me, and he ended up just like walking down the avenue, and I ended up taking a video. I did file a police report, and there is an ongoing investigation right now. But you know, to the 3 or 4 girls that I've seen so far on TikTok that have reported similar incidents,
I think that we should exchange our stories. It might be the same guy, but this is truly unacceptable, and it's something that we really need to figure out, because girls in New York City need to feel safe. Women in general just need to feel safe. I mean, we're always cautious about walking at night, but now we have to be cautious about walking in broad daylight. I mean, every single one of these stories happen in the middle of the day in broad daylight, and that's something that's really scary.
This is totally unacceptable. We've always talked about the wall and things like that, but no man of value resorts to such lowliness as hitting a woman. I hope they find that man. But what bothers me is that while some girls have gone through this, being true victims, many others just use them to mock. Did you see the video of those other girls taking it as some kind of joke? When you see things like that, it takes away the seriousness from the real victims. Because nowadays, these modern women or immature girls, everything is a joke. This is dangerous. It shouldn't be taken as a joke or for likes. What do you brothers think?
Oh my actual God, I literally just got punched in the face by a homeless man. Like, literally walking to the gym. Okay, I'm not even kidding. Today, a homeless man, 50 years old, just absolutely slugged me in the face. Like, punched me so hard. I'm bruised on the side. They ended up calling an ambulance and the police came. Literally, as soon as they came, they were like, do you want to get in the back of the car and go try to find this guy? They like threw on their sirens. We ran around all of Soho. It was actually kind of fun. Yeah. And like, again, there wasn't like major bruising, but they insisted that we get like an ambulance for the report. So we did. So these guys were freaking awesome. They're drawing penises all over their sketch pad. Lesson out there is be safe. Don't look at your phone, because I was just looking into logging to the gym before I got there. But like, listen to the street noise, enjoy it, but like, don't wear headphones and don't look down. Like, be up, have your head aware, because had I seen him kind of coming at me, I probably could have dodged it, because it's happened before. But yeah,
Something all the victims have in common is that they were all looking at their phones. It's like women nowadays can't stop looking at their phones. Nowadays, more than ever, there are many homeless people on the streets, frustrated men who just want to hurt them. The truth is, I don't like this at all. Because even though we talk about women and some of their wrongdoings, I don't condone physical abuse in any gender. We have mothers, cousins, sisters, or partners. You don't want anything like this to happen to them, especially since the strength of a man is incomparable to that of a woman. But as I said, the games continue with this. Just watch the other video of another girl making fun of the matter.
literally just got punched in the face by a homeless man.
This is my theory of why girls are getting punched in the face right now. That video is from 3 years ago. 3 years ago, this is still happening? That's crazy. So after doing all the research, I pulled together a theory that might make sense for most of you guys. First thing is I look at the consistencies. The 5 consistencies that this problem is having about all these females getting punched in the face are: 1, it's happening to females. They're young. They're typically Caucasian. They're always looking at their phone. And it's in Lower Manhattan, NoHo, Washington Square, NYU, Nolita, Soho, that kind of like broader area, just in this little lower part of Manhattan. The inconsistencies are the people, the time, the place, and the year. So I have this theory based off another content creator's idea that there might be like a group of people, homeless people, who have like a covenant with each other. Like if they see a Caucasian girl on her phone, to punch them. Because this has been happening for 3 years. What could this possibly be?
I'm not sure if it's a theory, but what would that conspiratorial group be called? The Punch Club? But she's right. It's a pattern. Always the same type of girl. Always the same cause. It seems to me they do it more because she's walking with her phone, looking down. The problem is, at some point, one of these punches will go very wrong. A girl could end up with a severe concussion. No one wants that to happen. Women should be more careful, protect themselves more. Another thing I fear is that it will be used to attack men. If women become more afraid of men, feminists will use it to continue their theory that all men are abusers or hitters. This isn't true, but I can already see it happening when some TikTok from the pink hair movement starts with that discourse that it's all men's fault in general. Women, take care of yourselves. Stop walking around looking at your phone. Let's hope this doesn't continue happening. We've reached the end of the video, But before we go, the questions are for you. What do you think about men hitting women on the streets? Do you really believe there's a group of people organized to do this? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from The Wall.
Stream every moment of Paris 2024, only on Discovery Plus. Limited time offer.
Women only dress for attention. Women only dress provocatively for men. Do you know how much more provocatively I would dress if men didn't exist? And I ain't even get.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll see several single and divorced women sharing their stories of how they ended up single, explaining why they're bothered by the question, why are you single? Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. We'd also love to hear your experiences in the comments. Your participation helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
Let's talk about feeling lonely in your marriage. I think that this is something that has been swept under the rug for a very long time, and most women don't feel comfortable talking about it. I got divorced 3 years ago. Before that, I did feel extremely lonely in my marriage, and I didn't talk to anyone about it. I felt ashamed and like it was my fault and that I had failed, and it was all internally something I was dealing with. I felt like I was supposed to support my partner and never say anything bad about him. So if I talked to my friends about how I was feeling, it was not being a supportive wife. So all these things that aren't true. As women, we deserve to be supported and loved and taken care of, no matter what stage you're in, no matter how old your kids are. So just know that you deserve that. You deserve to be treated well and loved and supported, and that being lonely in your marriage is not okay. Work on it if you want to work on it. Leave if you want to leave, but know that you need to talk to people and that you will get through this one way or another.
If you look at this society, women are given all the power. If she wants to leave, she can, no matter how much destruction is left in her wake. She just follows that emotion and forgets everything else. That's why I say women are loyal to their emotions. But something I've observed is that women always say men haven't matured as quickly as they have. The truth is, it's not like that. There's something I call the infatuation stage. This is the first level of a relationship when you're walking on eggshells to not upset your partner. Everything is beautiful and rosy. Usually, the man surpasses this stage, moves on to commitment and the responsibility of carrying a family. Women find it hard to move past the initial stages of a relationship because, as I said, they're addicted to this emotion and attention. It's hard for them to mature and understand that they won't receive as much attention anymore, and they have to pursue their own goals and family to be happy. That's why they say as a woman, I deserve. It's like, give me all this attention you gave me in the courtship. That's why she divorces, seeking to relive her single life when she was 20, being invited to all kinds of places, having many suitors. Everything was excitement and fun, seeking the initial stages of a relationship. But the wall is a cruel karma, showing her that her prime has passed, that men no longer see her the same after a divorce, that she has children, and she becomes a single mother. She doesn't have the financial support of her husband. What she thought was rosy turns completely blue with tears of suffering. The wall doesn't forgive, brothers.
Men want attention and will do anything to get it, just like a child.
Let's correct that statement, okay? Some people will do anything for attention and do anything to get it.
They will be good to get attention and they will be bad to get attention.
It's almost like that's part of human behavior.
Stop answering to men when they make childish or pandering or accusatory statements.
Does one mean like this one?
Responding to someone who has interrupted a conversation that they aren't even invited to is like saying it's okay that they're there.
Well, that's nice, but I'm definitely interrupting this conversation.
Ignore, delete, block, whatever you have to do to not trigger a cortisol or endocrine or any kind of response in your body. It's about you.
Now there's a radical change in priorities. Everything is about the individual and their feelings.
The less that you acknowledge that it's happening, the more that it becomes background noise and the more that it literally just doesn't even exist anymore.
But yet, here's a post about it.
For women to recenter and heal and decenter men and not consider them to be a part of blah, 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 to not consider them. They aren't invited to this piece of ourselves that is working on ourselves, that is working on us being the center.
Yet, ironically, one is still centering men in this conversation.
And no amount of good behavior or bad behavior or tantrum throwing or gesturing is going to get precedence over me and my well-being. Once I'm centered in that space, I'm willing and able to listen to anybody.
Just a thought here, but perhaps the best way to get others to listen to what one actually has to say would not be to start out generalizing a group of people just for the sake of grabbing their attention, and then perhaps one's words might actually carry more weight.
She accuses men of seeking attention, yet here she is, over 50 years old, making TikTok videos, talking about men. What irony, brothers. Ma'am, please sit down. A woman should be taking care of grandchildren or go play with her cat because she's on the wall, and the wall doesn't forgive. Women always want to grab a man's attention by any means necessary. They need it. They crave it. No matter their age, they always want men to notice them. So when they can't grab a man's attention anymore, they start making videos to criticize them. It's the law of the mirror. They reflect their own deficiencies. This woman could talk about a good marriage, but since she doesn't have one, she prefers to tell women to ignore men, not to give them attention. In short, she wants to spread her misery. That's why I told you, the wall doesn't forgive.
My marriage failed in my 20s, and I want to give y'all some advice if you've never been married before. My marriage failed for a lot of reasons, but I think this is my biggest downfall. I never thought through what kind of husband I wanted. Which probably sounds dumb, but I didn't think it through, and now that I'm divorced, I have a list of like the traits I want my future husband to have. I spelled it all out because I'm not settling. I'm gonna share with y'all what I wrote so that you can go make your own list. Because even if you got a great boyfriend, you need to think these things through. I was dating my ex for 3 years before we got married. I never made a list. I loved him, and that was enough for me. Stupid, you need a list. This list isn't what you want them to look like or anything like that. It's the traits you want them to have, like what type of person you want them to be. I literally wrote out things I want in a husband. I never shared this before because I didn't want men to like form themselves to what I want, but I have a boyfriend that's made me add to the list now, so it's okay if I share it. Don't be sharing your list with these men though. All right, things I want in a husband. Loves the outdoors, cuddles in the morning, good hygiene, warm, happy personality, no mental health problems or correctly medicated, surprises me / does cute things, plans dates, bachelor's degree or higher, which my boyfriend doesn't have that, but he has a great career, so that one was kind of superficial anyways. Good job, nice vehicle, that one was superficial too, and my boyfriend's vehicle is a junker, but it made me appreciate my car now. Anyways, manly man, spiritual leader, lives an active, healthy life, can do projects, very sexual, puts me in my place. I got that one underlined too. Never calls me mean words, likes to dance, good with money, enjoys creating social media content with me, motivates me to be my best self. If you don't have a list, go make yourself one. And if you're on any sort of self-discovery journey, I 10 out of 10 recommend journaling. I bought this at the beginning of my journey. I was 230 pounds. And I wrote in here, like, I am here to rediscover myself. This was my best friend throughout my weight loss journey. I've even gotten angry before and, like, ripped pages out of it, but I put them back for, the story.
Your biggest downfall was reaching 230 pounds and making your husband want to leave you. Don't have a wish list like your Santa Claus. It's not like you're going to Walmart for groceries. Because, as I said, they can wish for a man with a good job, a nice car, who's affectionate, who only pays attention to them, who makes money with a bachelor's degree or higher, in other words, a perfect man. Because this seems more like a full-time job to get involved with a single mother and divorcee. Wonderful, every man's dream. Here's the irony of women. They can make a list of everything they want their man to have, then expect him to meet a series of requirements to be with her. But if a man sets standards, they get angry. Imagine this man saying he has a list, and she responds that she has one too. On his list, the first thing might be not overweight. This man would be labeled misogynistic, fatphobic, and all the purple-haired collective would come after him to crucify him. Because how is it possible not to want a woman who is overweight, as was the case with this woman's ex? She talks about how her life improved after leaving a disastrous marriage when she weighed 230 pounds, didn't work, and spent her time complaining. What sane man would be happy in that situation? But of course, she leaves her husband, now loses weight, typical of modern women only getting in shape to snag a beta provider for a second marriage.
This year, my broadband is playing up. I think the routers.
Anton, stick to the script, please.
Sorry. Discover an epic struggle to work out why my ice dancing shows won't stream.
Anton, the script.
Watch this film when it comes out. Not that I'll be able to.
Cut!
Discover the freedom to forget your broadband worries.
Hyperoptic. We're in your corner. Check hyperoptic.com for availability and terms.
It's funny because it's true.
Oh, honey, if only I had an easy answer for this one. Honestly, that's another misguided phrase people employ that also drives me crazy. Why are you still single? Unless it's asked facetiously, like, how are you still single? You're fucking awesome. But when people ask as if it's a problem they're trying to get to the root of, I can't stand it. And I don't know if you, like me, have done some self-reflection over the years and have tried to come up with an earnest answer. Because the truth is, I probably didn't put myself out there as much as I should have throughout most of my 20s. I had a lot of insecurities I let hold me back, and I was much more passive about connections coming to me rather than seeking them. But then again, I have friends my age who were aggressively dating during this time, and they're also still single. And I have never once looked at these women and thought, well, you're single because there must be something wrong with you. Are there things they could stand to work on or improve within themselves? Absolutely, but that's not exclusive to single people. We're all learning and growing. It doesn't mean we're not worthy of finding a partner to do that alongside. No matter what you do or don't do, there is not one single strategy on this earth that is going to make a suitable partner just appear. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. And that's not to say what dating coaches are selling isn't always legit, because some of them certainly do have some helpful insights and advice, but none of them are going to pull your future husband out of their back pocket. Personally, I can't stand when people refer to dating as a numbers game, meaning the more people you go out with, the more likely you are to find someone. No. For me, quality trumps quantity. Saying yes to a bunch of mediocre dates when I know before going in that they're not the one is not helpful to me. And that's not to say I don't give men I'm doubtful about a chance, because believe me, I do. But I also don't want to waste anyone's time, mine or theirs. Yes, the more you put yourself out there and get to know other human beings, the more likely it is you'll find someone. But that doesn't mean you have to go on a date with everyone. There are other ways to meet people. Hone your hobbies. And let's remember, just because someone has found someone else doesn't mean it will last. People break up and get divorced all the time. People who meet their partner in their late teens or early 20s and are together for 7, 8, 9 years, sometimes they outgrow each other and the relationship doesn't last. Having someone at present isn't a guarantee for the future, even if you both commit to it. And while I'd like to believe there's a lid for every pot, some lids are just harder to come by. Some pots are more basic. They're easy to pair with any lid. Doesn't mean it's the lid for you or that you have to settle for a lid that's good enough. And it doesn't mean there's anything inherently wrong with the pot or that it can't make a damn good soup. You just have to search a little harder if you want to find its counterpart. I probably overextended this metaphor, but I'm not mad about it. Point is, love and relationships come easier to some than they do to others, but it doesn't mean you're unworthy of receiving any of it.
I'll tell you why you're still single. It's because of that stupid idea that something better will always come along. Most women, if not all, have suitors, men who would be very willing to have a relationship because there are plenty of single men out there. But they still want a winner because none of them want to be the woman of the process. What do I mean by this? In the past, a woman would date an average man, and they would both build together, coming from the bottom and adjusting over time. Nowadays, they don't want to be the woman of the process. They want to be the woman who finds a man, as we saw with the other girl who's well employed, has a good job, a nice car, a career or business, earns more than 6 figures, and in some cases is a 6-foot-tall man. Do you really know how many men can meet such standards? A minority. That's why they're annoyed when asked, and when someone wants to keep investigating because they're attractive women and because there are many single men, yet they can't seem to find one. They'll always say, I have to work on myself. I'm the one holding myself back, not you. You should just lower your standards, bet on a man's potential, because they're hitting the wall, and the wall doesn't forgive.
Say this, and I am going to pin this to my
profile. When I say that I am a single woman and I am happy, this does not mean that I don't like relationships, that I hate relationships, that I don't see the benefit in relationships, or that I never want a relationship. It just means that I am single and I am happy, and I am not going to place everything on finding a partner. That is it. That is all it means. How is it so embedded in your brains? You have brain rot from the association that single women must always be miserable in the incessant pursuit of a relationship to find worth and value and meaning in this world. That when a single woman says she's happy, you immediately take that as some sort of reflection of what she believes about relationships. Single women, single people can be single and be happy and still leave room for someone incredible to come into our lives that could bring an incredibly enriching experience. That is more than possible. And my frustration, my fire around this comes from the fact that when I dare say that I'm happy, when I'm just out here thriving, living my life, creating, figuring it out, trying to figure out what the hell is going on in this world, that is taken as some mission statement about what I think about relationships. Are you mad? Are you actually mad? Because there's no correlation between the two at all. Embracing your life for what it has to offer you today is the #1 way to just be happy instead of living in constant want. I do not promote being in a relationship as better or being single as better. I promote the idea that you choose for you what is best and I will choose for me what is best. And then we respect the differences between us on our own individual journeys. Is that so hard to grasp? And as much fun as it is to talk like this, what I want to say is that loving, healthy, supportive, mutual relationships, 10 out of 10, back that horse, ride it all the way into the sunset, 100%. But also know that your life has so much to offer, whether you are in a relationship or out of a relationship, whether you have that or never find it at all, you have so much to discover.
This means she's as lonely as the sun at noon on a cloudless day. When you hear a woman shouting from the rooftops that she's single and happy, just pay attention to the keyword, single. She's announcing herself, hoping for suitors, because someone who's genuinely happy doesn't need to proclaim it. People just notice. In life, there are two types of people. Those who have a partner and those who haven't found the right deal in the supermarket of love yet. This woman falls into the second category, lost in her search but not finding. It annoys her when people ask if she's single, and she'll say she's happy being single. But this woman had a relationship at 25 or older, ended it, and now she's in her 30s, hitting the wall. And since she's hitting the wall, she has to change the modern women's discourse to cover her loneliness. I'm happily single, but it's been several years now, and that happiness doesn't seem to end, or no one sticks around. But as she says, she still has much to discover. Let's hope she doesn't realize too late that she's hit the wall, because the wall doesn't forgive.
See, the next time someone says not all men, ask them this. If a bee was flying towards their face, would they duck or would they say, not all bees sting, maybe I should give this one a chance.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll talk about a woman complaining about having to work, as well as the reasons why a woman got divorced. Another woman expresses that if she marries a man, she doesn't want to take his last name or have their children take his last name. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you like what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We'd also love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Your participation helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
Women are not meant to work 9-to-5 jobs.
Well, this should be interesting.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. We shouldn't have to work 9-to-5 jobs.
What should we, women, be doing with our time?
Women are meant to go to Pilates class, tan by a pool, read a good book, take care of the children, make good food, and be provided for by a man.
It sounds like one thinks that only the men should have to work. I mean, how far back in time do we want to go? Does one still want the ability to be able to vote?
There's no way a woman can be in her feminine energy if she's sitting on a 9-to-5 job where she's unhappy.
Oh, good. That feminine energy thing. Again.
The worst part is there's women out there that are having to fill that masculine role in the office, getting things done.
Working is masculine now, and so apparently is getting things done. Noted.
Because they have to be. They're covering bills. They're paying for half a dinner when a man should be paying for the tab every time.
I guess some women don't really want to be independent women, do they?
Did we as a society decide that women should go to a 9-to-5 job, feel some gratification, instead of staying at home with the kids?
It never ceases to amaze me how many individuals actually seem to have entirely skipped history class of how hard so many women and men had to work just so that women could be seen as equals in society.
If a woman wants to work part-time so she can spend more time with her kids at home, she should be able to do that. And don't get me wrong, if you want to work a 9-to-5 job, you go do that. But I'm just saying, women shouldn't have to.
Well then, in the spirit of equality, I guess that means that men shouldn't have to work either. But let's see how well that'll go for society when everybody is so entitled that they don't think that they have to work.
This confirms that what women like is to be supported. Of course, many of these women don't want a traditional life. They want a sponsor. Listen to her saying, "Go to Pilates. That's my feminine energy. Let a man pay my bills." Of course. And what do you offer this man? That's why the soft guy movement drizzles. It will become increasingly popular among men because they don't see themselves as a wallet or ATM. You fought for equality. You complained about men's protection. You asked for more rights to step out of your husband's shadow. Well, endure the pressure of having to work like every man to make a living. It's that the modern woman doesn't understand that being a man is going through life in hard mode. A man is not unconditionally loved. A man is only worth what he can offer. This is what society hasn't always said like this. So, welcome to the equality you wanted, where everyone has to work to support themselves. Drizzle.
I can remember when I told my ex-husband I wanted a divorce. It was December 2019, and he was completely shocked. Completely caught off guard, like dumbfounded, devastated, everything else. But the month before that, November of 2019, I remember very clearly having yet another talk with him about how unhappy I was. But this particular conversation, he was in his man cave room playing video games, which was like his favorite activity. And I go walking in and I tell him, like, I really want to talk about our marriage. Like, I'm not happy. It feels like we're roommates at this point, and I don't really have a partner, blah, blah, blah. This man was wearing his headphones because he was playing with a friend and they like talked to each other. He didn't even take his headphones off. He just pulled it off his right ear. This is almost 4 years ago now. I can still remember he pulled it off his right ear and he didn't pause the game or stop playing. He continued to play a video game while his wife was standing in front of him, telling him how unhappy she was in the marriage. And I remember when he said to me something about like marriage being forever and whatever, and I said to him, well, maybe some marriages aren't meant to last. And he got so mad at me for saying that, but he didn't stop playing video games to have the conversation with me. And if that doesn't perfectly sum up why I divorced this man, then I don't know what does. And I feel like this is a very common trend. I hear about this type of stuff a lot, where the wife had expressed her concerns for months or even years, and then when she finally says, all right, I've done everything I could do, I want a divorce, then the husband's like, what do you mean? What's happening? I love you. Please don't leave me. Please don't take my kids from me. It's like, bitch, you should have put in effort. You had the opportunity. We give you so many opportunities to do the right thing. You chose not to. This is now the repercussions of your actions. Am I wrong?
The woman is envious of the man's happiness because out of the 24 hours in a day, the best time to talk about the relationship is when the man starts playing video games. Because you didn't want to talk about the relationship, you just wanted to take away his individual moment where he's having fun so he'd pay attention to you. Many women do this. When a man watches a sports game, immediately the woman comes to talk about problems, because she wants to snatch those little moments of personal enjoyment from you just to fill you with complaints. You could say it when you're at the dinner table, when you're in the room together, or tell him when you have a moment that you need to talk about something important, not when the man is relaxing and trying to unwind. Then you want to mess with the relationship and your problems. There's a saying that goes, pick your battles. If you're smart, you'd pick a moment when you're both relaxed together to calmly explain that you want changes in the relationship or that you're not happy for X or Y reason. They want to keep things to themselves, and only when they want to leave the relationship, that's when they come to unload their complaints, because they never think, this man has family debts to pay, this man is stressed from work, he might be depressed. They never think that us men can have individual problems. What matters is only how you feel. I tell you, women always envy men's happiness.
I just saw my ex on a dating app, and oh my god, the lies he put on it. When I first saw it, my heart dropped. I was like, oh shit. And then I was fine because it was just way too hilarious to not laugh at. Half of the pictures I took, and then all of the prompts were a lie. Like, he was like, I'm tall and rich. I'm like, you're neither of those. I just thought it was funny, but it's so nice to like get that behind me. Like, you know, like the things that you kind of are nervous for, like you're nervous for running into them in public, you're nervous for seeing them on a dating app or whatever, and it's like that happened and that wasn't even bad, and I feel great. Anyway, it's just so funny. I don't know if it's gonna hit me later that I saw that and I'll be sad, but I don't think so. That's also a big red flag. If people are lying on the dating app, like, run. Like, they are just liars and they will not change. Run.
What bothers you is that he quickly moved on from you, making you feel like you weren't as special in his life as you thought you were. Remember, women always want to be special in a man's life, and they all want to see their exes worse off than when they left them, but seeing him doing better than you gave your heart a twist. Something I like about the Chad, a man who brings nothing to the table except his seed, is that these men never go down in flames when they leave a relationship. Don't get me wrong, everyone grieves in their own way, but crying to a woman when she leaves you never yields results. If she leaves you, go no contact immediately, disappear from her life as if the earth swallowed you. Hit the gym, and the next month, at least get on dating apps, even if it's just to chat with someone and not lose the skill of talking to women. Believe me, she'll be keeping an eye on you, wanting to know what's become of your life. She'll search for you. This same girl talks about her ex, but she doesn't mention that she's also looking for a replacement because finding him on a dating app means you're there too. What a double standard women have. What hurt your ego is that he's already moved on, that his description, the one you noticed, will bring him a better woman than you. Brothers, just like the Chad, that's a low blow.
Men are losing their mind over a recent video that I made explaining how you leaving a good guy doesn't make you a bad person. Your spouse doesn't have to be abusive in order for your feelings of wanting to leave to be valid. There are dozens of reasons why marriages fall apart, and a lot of them have nothing to do with somebody being a bad person. Here are some examples. Financial problems, growing apart, communication issues, addiction, too much arguing, lack of emotional or physical intimacy, one spouse just isn't carrying their weight in the marriage, maybe you married too young or for the wrong reasons, opposing values or lack of shared interests, or maybe you just live like platonic roommates. Those are all very common reasons for divorce, and it doesn't make you or your spouse a bad person.
Anxiety, uncertainty, and instability are always your best allies. A relationship ends in different ways. That's why I tell you, being a good man is no longer enough. You have to understand that many of these modern women, whether through social media, music, or their favorite actresses, or the purple hair movement, are constantly telling them to be bad, to go out with their bad boy, that men are there to please them. Whether you like it or not, all these things have an effect on a woman's mind. Whenever she's in a healthy relationship, she's always feeling like something's missing. As I've said, a woman is faithful to her emotions. That's why they never leave the Chad, because he puts them on an emotional roller coaster. One day he sweetens things up, the next day he salts it. He keeps them in this constant back and forth. Women are addicted to attention and drama. I always tell them, a good or bad emotion is still an emotion. Another thing, this is advice for men. Never lose your identity in a relationship. If you had friends, you dressed a certain way. That's how you won over that woman. When you change everything for her, you become what she's chewing on. You know what will happen. She'll get bored of you because you're no longer the guy she fell in love with. Stop thinking they're rational beings. These women are irrational thinkers. Remember, when they say something, they do the opposite.
Please give your baby your surname. You carried a baby for 9 months.
I had this conversation with a partner one time. He was my best friend since 8th grade, and we finally started dating when we were 20, and it was like, oh my gosh, at last we get to be together. When I told him I wanted to keep my last name and hyphenate our children's names, he said, why? And I said, oh, just because I like my last name. Like, I'd hyphenate if you wanted me to, but, you know, that's fine, whatever. And he was so heartbroken that I didn't want to change my name, and I said, why do you want me to change my name? And he's like, so we can have the same last name. And I said, oh, that's easy, just change yours. Like, I have a really cool last name. And he goes, but it's my father's name. And I said, yeah, me too. It's my father's name too. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to change it. Floored, shocked, so confused that I didn't want to change it. But he wouldn't change his either.
And that's why she's still single. You'll die with your father's surname that nobody wants. Brothers, do you know why she doesn't want that man's surname? Because he doesn't bring anything to the table. If he was a man with a lot to his name, believe me, she'd be crazy to have his surname and that of their children. But since she feels empowered, she's probably better off than the man, so she doesn't want to carry his surname. Imagine going to a gathering or a salon and they announce, for example, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. But then, how would it be, Mr. Smith and Mrs. whatever her name is? That's ridiculous. So when it comes to giving the surname to their child, mainly to the male child who carries on the family name, who will bear the woman's father's surname, when that's not his child, then that child isn't yours. Women want to strip away all the rights from the man, except for having to pay child support and inheriting your assets. Because in the event of your premature death, she'll want to prove that the child is yours, bearing your surname, to inherit all your money. DNA, like the surname, is sacred to a man. How do you tell a man that he doesn't want to have his surname? When there are people in history who paid their son-in-law to bear their surname for their children, when men created great works in the world or infrastructures to carry their surname, when it's a source of pride for a man to be called the Smith family. That's why this woman is alone, because I doubt that any man, unless he's a super simp, would accept something like that. The wall doesn't forgive.
Vodafone, the nation's network, connecting you this summer. Shout out to everyone on their holidays. Hey Dad, you're going viral. The sun worshippers and the beer gardeners.
Where are you? Good job. Day one.
We're here for it. We're part of it.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we will see the new movement that feminists want to promote called the 4B movement. We will see where it originated, what it means, and why modern women want to promote this in the West. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you like what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up. We would also love to hear your experiences in the comments. Your participation helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
The 4B movement, which if you don't know what that is, go look it up and come back.
Don't worry, I've got you. The 4B movement over in South Korea is starting to get a lot of attention all over the world and the internet, so let's talk about it today. Like, what is it, where did it come from, and why is it becoming so popular all of a sudden? And why does some people believe it is one of the main factors contributing to the fact that South Korea has like one of the lowest fertility rates in the entire world right now? So yeah, I would argue that it's pretty effective, and now it's starting to garner attention over here in the West with all the women who are also fed up with dating. There have been a lot of feminist movements happening in the past 10, 20 years or so over in South Korea, as there has been all over the world, of course. But a new subsect of women in these feminist movements are starting a movement called the 4B movement, also known as the 4 No's, which is a group of women saying no to dating, child rearing, marriage, and relations of any kind with men, if you get what I'm saying. And from my research, the 4B movement actually originated from a larger movement called Escape the Corset in South Korea.
which is interestingly similar to some behaviors we've been seeing over here in the West. But it's no secret that in South Korea, the patriarchy is very strong, right? And they have very strict beauty standards and things you're supposed to adhere to. And a lot of women shared their stories about how they always felt like they had to have a certain amount of makeup every time they left the house. They had to look a certain way, act a certain way, fit in with society a certain way. They had to buy new clothes every season, and it was just exhausting, and they couldn't afford to keep up with it anymore. Does this sound familiar at all? But of course, naturally, they hit a breaking point, and they formed the Escape the Corset movement. And part of the protest was that women just started destroying makeup and clothes altogether. But a lot of women noticed, of course, things weren't getting better, and the issues stemmed way deeper than just physical appearance. Women started to notice things like South Korea ranks 99 out of all 146 countries for gender equality. That's really bad. And articles started coming out with surveys that were reporting that 65% of women in the whole country didn't even want kids, and 42% didn't want to get married at all. And 80% of the people said the reason for that was because domestic violence was so bad. And on top of the fact that things were getting so bad over there, the South Korean government wanted to shut down the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, which was the place that is supposed to be supporting women. And they started removing terms like gender equality from textbooks. They also noted, of course, that the gender pay gap was huge over there, and there was wild amounts of discrimination from anyone who did choose to become a mother, so why would you want to? So essentially, the women got tired of the men and the government treating them terribly and ignoring them, so they decided to take matters into their own hands and said, we've had enough, we're done, and so far it's working really well. So now all the other feminist movements in countries where, laws are being overturned, such as here, are seeing that and going, oh, wait, maybe that's not the worst idea. And I haven't decided if I'm personally at this point entirely or not yet, although I've kind of been doing it for the past 25 years anyways, but I do think it's a very interesting thought to consider.
Brothers, everyday things are getting worse and worse. It's like modern women don't understand how they're being used by groups that only want women to be lonely for greater consumption of fast fashion and beauty products. But you might wonder who gives the most voice to this movement against men. Well, it's those with the rainbow flag, those with purple hair, many of whom dislike men because they are attracted to women. They want to eliminate their competition by bringing them to their side. But it's not just that. Now, they're even trying to convince married women with stable homes to end their relationships, saying that everything men do is minimal, that they should leave them and join the movement because they live with a patriarchal oppressor. Did you hear? 65% don't want children, 42% don't want to get married. They say that by 2030, 45% of women will be single. Friends, start selling cat food.
Funniest thing about the 4B movement is it always comes from women that look more masculine than the men that they're talking about. And you know the exact women I'm talking about that have like the septum piercings, the different color hair, that literally are so far in their masculine role that the men weren't even looking in their direction in the first place. But the other funny part about it is it's another perfect example of how so many women are desperate to constantly compete with men. And it's just another way that these women are trying to one-up men, but the irony is that men have already checked out of marriage. They don't want kids. They find women insufferable because women have literally made it impossible to make them happy. So men are over it. There's passport bros for a reason, but yet here come the women with their 4B movement trying to make an impact of something that the men are already doing, which is something historically women have done with jobs, with everything around them, trying to be mechanics, trying to do all the manly jobs or make more money and be boss-ass babes. Everything is in competition with men. The same men that they claim not to give a shit about or that they don't need or yada, 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 that men are trash. But if there's so much trash, then why are you constantly competing with them or trying to one-up them or be better than them? And the other funny thing about it is that these women claim that they don't want male attention or male validation. They're so over men, but they create all of this drama and all of this chaos circulating around men, knowing damn well they're gonna get attention from men, so make that make sense. It's honestly the hypocrisy for me. And these are the same women in comments like myself saying, pick me, pick me, pick me, but y'all have perpetuated drama so much to get male attention, because negative attention is still attention. And if women aren't seeking attention from men outside of creating all of this drama, then why are they still on OnlyFans? Why are there still so many single mothers? Well, guess what? Because there's always going to be women that are going to put themselves out there and put themselves in jeopardizing situations because they want to perpetually live in victimhood. And what's the alternative? That you become a lesbian where the divorce rates are higher and the domestic violence rates are higher in lesbian couples, So make that make sense. And the fucked up part about it is it's just another example of how women will set the standard of what they want, and when the men follow through even further or use women for something or another, they can turn around and flip it and be in their victimhood and be like, oh my god, all men are trash, and it just perpetuates the idea that all men are the same and all men are gross and disgusting, even though the men are following the same standard that the women set in the first place. Okay, bye.
I totally agree. It's like that anti-abortion movement, my body, my choice. You see women in those movements, and you wonder who in their right mind would impregnate them. Modern women are going through the phases of a man's life because they've wanted to be like men. And when I say phases, every man knows he has to improve himself to get a good woman, from working to improving his physique, because a man is expected to bring something to the table. Now that men have moved on from women, women are going through their phase of having to pursue men. Those who can't get one enter a sort of denial because they don't have partners. Just look, it's always women now wanting to compete in everything we do, because this movement is just a variation of MGDOW or red pill, but for women, it's just another phase of men's lives. The problem is that men adapt faster than women. We play at their same level. They wanted to travel the world. We didn't renew our passports, bro. The girls are strong and independent. We're red pill. Single women are the happiest in the world. Men continue on their path with MGDOW. Now there's the 4B movement. But don't worry, we have the soft guy, the drizzle. It will keep appearing more because in their own game, men always win.
Imagine if men got on this app and said, oh yeah, we're going to participate in the 4Bs.
If us men were to sit here and create a movement where we wanted to no longer center women and we wanted to keep to ourselves and stay far away from them as possible, I think that they would absolutely love that. I think if every woman on the planet had the choice to be a lesbian, they would absolutely take it. I ain't trying to sound like no simp or nothing, but bro, us as men, we suck. We're their number one unaliver by a mile, bro. Like, the vast majority of us are extremely dangerous to them. And they have a right to feel how they want to feel. And all they're saying is they just don't want to center us anymore. You know what I mean? If you really that guy, earn them. I mean, what's the problem? I mean, you ain't got no riz, you ain't got no game. I mean, are you a terrible person? If that's not you, then why are you getting so uptight about this movement? You want to change their minds, earn them back. They're just letting you know that us men ain't the only ones with all this power. They got the keys. And without them, civilization doesn't move, bro. They're demanding their respect, deservingly so. So how about we give it to them, earn them back, so we can get this ish back on the roll. If not, they're out of here, buddy. And that's not on them, that's on us. Respectfully.
If you bought a car between 2014 and 2021, go put the registration plate number in this form, because you might...
Personally, as a man, I don't support all movements. I don't have the belief that all women are bad, just like not all men are bad either. But absolving one group of responsibility and saying that only men need to change, brother, that's also wrong. Because we don't take to the streets with signs to assert our rights. The most we do is make a TikTok video talking about something that bothers us. If not, DNA tests would be mandatory. Women change laws in their favor, and they usually get their way, from divorces, child custody and support, pregnancy, to labor regulations that favor their collective. So, saying that all girls would be happy never having a man in their lives is a fallacy. No matter how much they want their Barbie world, men are the ones who keep the global economy ticking in all countries. And of course, if a woman's life is super important, so is a man's. I agree that some men need to make an effort to learn the game and not let themselves be manipulated. But some women should also change their attitudes toward their men, be kinder partners. There's no yin without yang. It's that simple. That's why on this channel, I tell men that the best investment will always be in yourself, because that will make you the best option for a feminine woman who respects you. Because as a man, you are also valuable.
Korean women have no idea what the 4B movement is, and we need to stop this misinformation.
Okay, so thank you to my friend Annie for making that video, because I am a Korean woman currently living in Korea, and I have so much to say about this topic. So most of the 4B movement videos that I've seen on TikTok are made from foreigners, And I think Korean Americans or just Asian people living in the West, but not actually people living in Korea. So like I said, I live in Seoul. What I think is happening is the Western media likes to really pick up on these sensationalist, provocative topics and then makes it into an article, and then everyone on TikTok follows suit and makes videos about it. But let me tell you, I am 29, going to turn 30 this year, and literally all the conversations that I have with my friends around my age is about, oh my god, we're looking to get married, we need to find good partners, and we need to do this before it gets too late or we're just like aged out of their marriage market, you know? And I just made a YouTube video about this, Korea's population crisis, why nobody's getting married or having babies. But I also explained there are services in Korea like marriage matchmaking services where people go and you pay a broker and you submit all this information about yourself, your income, your assets, your family background, if you have any debt, like which university you went to, you submit all that information, and then they take that and then they will try to match you up with people who they think that you're on par with. So you know how you see in K-dramas how like the poor girl ends up marrying the richest CEO of Korea? Yeah, in reality that never happens. So people go to these marriage services and they're heavily used. There are literally so many in the country because everyone is using them. And so the 4B movement in Korea is a very, very small fraction of the whole Korean population in general. It's just the Western media likes to highlight that part and make it seem like it's the biggest issue in Korea, which it really is not. I can promise you that. Don't believe all those sensational articles written online all the time. Most people in Korea still like the other sex. We want to date, we want to find love, we want to get married. Those are like the big majority. And it's only the small group of extreme radical misandrists and extreme radical misogynists. They just seem like the loudest because the most attention goes to them. But yeah, I literally just dropped a YouTube video explaining about this whole thing, so go watch it, Annalie on YouTube.
See why I tell you women say one thing and do the opposite. That movement wants to change some things in Korea, but what they fight for there is totally different from the narrative that the pink-haired movement in the West wants to sell. Even though women write articles saying that single women are the happiest, at the end of the day, you can't leave behind your instincts. Like a man, no matter how much he wants to, he can't stop desiring a woman. The same thing happens with women. They want to push their agenda of loneliness by trying to hit men. But in the end, they're the ones who end up suffering, as we saw in videos of women regretting feminism. Women asking themselves why they're single, strong, and independent women who followed the corporate path regret their decision. Women can't escape their desire to have a family, and the idea of a dating agency is brilliant. Seeking potential partners, I bet it would start to be a business here, and women would be the first ones willing to pay the fee.
If you don't start to comply, we will start selling you on the market like cattle. We have all the guns, don't forget that. Okay, I know that guys are inherently slower than women are. I mean, sorry, but it is what it is, okay? So I'm gonna help you out here. What you don't comprehend is that women have been living in fear of men from birth. Okay, so these threats, this means absolutely nothing to me, okay? What's happening is you're angry because you're lonely. Things are not going the way you thought they would. You thought it would just be easy for you and you'd coast through life and get everything you want. And that's not happening. That's not happening. And where you are is at a fork in the road, guys, okay? So you have two choices. A, you can continue down the path that you're on and behaving the way that you do, and then you will legit die alone. Okay, your biggest fear, you will die alone. Okay, nobody will be by your side. Or the option I recommend is to go to therapy, work on yourself, become better human beings, and then hope like hell a woman picks you one day. Okay? Because the tables have turned. You don't understand that we do not need you anymore. We do not care. You serve very little purpose, okay? You're not providers. You're certainly not protectors. I mean, you're making threats against us right there. So you can't protect us. You're a threat to us. And you're not providing anything financially or otherwise. You're not even nice. You guys are a fork in the road. Choose wisely, okay? May the odds forever be in your favor. Good luck, good luck.
The female logic is somewhat twisted because if a man ends up alone for not having a woman, it's not the same as a woman not having a man. Because if there are more women than men, let's say there are 20% of single men, That equals 25% of single women, because there are more women than men, and there can't be more of one and less of the other, according to my math. Now, a piece of advice for every man. Don't go threatening a woman just because she doesn't want to be with you. That's stupid. It makes you look needy, and it can get you into legal trouble. Don't do that. I always advise working on yourself. Gym, good nutrition, getting your finances in order, learning skills to help you earn more money, finding a style of clothing that suits you, then hiring a photographer to take good photos of you in different styles of clothing. All of that, brothers, adds points. I assure you, it will bring you the woman you like because it makes you a high-value man. Now, this woman doesn't say that many women will also end up alone if they don't change, that men won't accept certain attitudes, that they're famous unrealistic standards. Well, men are over it. And here's another fact. There are more women than men in this country. A man can easily leave the country and marry a woman from another nationality. Brothers, if you do the work and invest in yourself, believe me, you'll never end up alone.
If I decided to get married, I would never take his last name. I would use my maiden name. So you'd use your father's name? No, I'm going to use my mother's maiden name. So your grandfather's name. Okay, got it.
The folding swivel stand is silky smooth to use, allowing you to enjoy a high-quality entertainment.
Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we'll be addressing a highly controversial topic that the one with the purple hair is trying to promote. The idea that children and wives shouldn't take the man's last name. Many argue that this is oppressive and patriarchal. Before we begin, we want to thank you for being here. Your support means a lot to us. If you enjoy what you see, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. We'd also love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being part of our project. Let's get started.
I would never take his last name. I would use my maiden name. So you'd use your father?
I've been writing about feminism for 20 years, and this still remains one of the top issues that gets people so upset, so pressed. They get like really riled up about this. The video I stitched is actually a really good response to this argument. The name you grew up with is your name. Like, that is part of your identity. It's yours. And I think people really need to ask, why are so many people jumping through hoops to pretend as if this is not sexist? It is incredibly sexist, like very explicitly so. Now, that doesn't mean you're a bad feminist, right? Like, we all make different negotiations in a patriarchal world. That's fine. But let's not pretend that this is not really explicitly sexist. And if it was no big deal, and if it's just tradition, if it's like you want one family name, why don't men do it?
Here's your response. What is the real benefit for the man in marriage? In almost 95% of divorces, the man loses everything, including custody of the children. The only benefit, at least on paper, is having your surname in the family. So when you talk about your family in a public place or legal document, it will be Mr. Castillo and Mrs. Lucero, for example. The children will also carry 2 last names because everything is sexist to not give any benefit to the man. Now, if you're a millionaire, I assure you they'll want your surname because at least it has a renowned name. That's why fewer and fewer men want to get married every day. I don't know what man would truly accept this because your father gives you your surname, which will be passed down through generations to his family. Why on earth would I continue passing on another man's surname in my family when he's already formed his own? Why does he still have influence on mine? Also, how will our children have 2 different surnames, especially the male child? Who will carry your surname to your grandchildren? Let me know in the comments what you think about this.
How do you feel about women taking men's last names when they get married?
We do not live in a patriarchy. I think that's extinct and it should not be a thing anymore.
I definitely think it's the woman's choice.
Don't do it. You're gonna divorce him.
I feel like that's a personal.
Feels like it's going.
Feels like a.
Although I just talked to somebody yesterday about this who was like, my last name is really boring, and so I want to lose it.
I don't think it should be really like a norm.
I would keep mine. I think, but like keep my husband's too.
In my culture, the women don't take men's last names. So yeah, it's definitely just a choice.
Will not marry a girl if she doesn't take my last name.
Would you hyphenate?
No.
Hold on. I know. Here's it's the smallest sign of showing your child or children that you're not completely on the same page. You can't agree to just one name for your family, so instead you're trying to do both parts instead of unifying as one name. Women get the fancy ring, they get most of the input on the marriage. I feel like the name is not a bad trade-off. Yeah. That's my thought.
What's the benefit for the man at all? She takes everything. Unless she's willing to sign a prenup before marriage to keep her surname, then we wouldn't have a problem at least gaining something. But she doesn't want to lose anything. So what do you gain? Also, why get married if you don't want to be part of this man's family? I understand that if you divorce, you can go back to your maiden name. But if you got married, it's to become one. So why don't you want to be Mrs. Castillo? That's how it would be presented, Mr. and Mrs. Castillo, for example. Every day, men's rights are diminishing. Men these days are afraid to say important things. Do you think someone like Trump, Obama, Ford, Rockefeller, those men who have achieved something in life, their wives wouldn't support them? Do you think they would accept their surname being put on the back burner? Women don't understand that a man's surname is his legacy. Once it's tarnished, what's left?
Did you guys know that in Islam, women are not required to take the names of their husbands? In the West and cultures around the world, women continue to take the last names of their husband without really knowing where this tradition originates from. So the tradition of taking the husband's last name after marriage comes from a deeply patriarchal society where women would essentially become the husband's property after marriage. So husbands would have complete control over their wives legally, financially, and women wouldn't even have rights over their own children. Now in Islam, women were given rights to ownership, inheritance, financial independence, individual sovereignty, all without marriage or ownership of a husband, and they were not considered as property. Today, many women around the world still practice the tradition of taking their husband's last name, but I find it interesting how many women don't know where this tradition originates from. And that includes myself. Up until 3 years ago, before I started studying Islam, I never really thought about it or knew where this tradition came from. And I find it so interesting and comical almost how Western women view Muslim women through like this lens of like they're victims and they're oppressed. Meanwhile, Muslim women in Islam were given rights almost 1,300 years before women in the West. So next time, before you view Muslim women as victims or oppressed, you should probably study the religion and learn about the rights that Islam gave to us long before you.
According to what she says, it's better not to take the man's surname. But you know what's practiced more in Islam. First, if a woman divorces, she must provide strong evidence for why she's divorcing. Second, there's only a 3-month maintenance period after which she's on her own. Third, the woman has rights to the children when they're young. Only at a certain age does the father also have custody rights. Fourth, and perhaps the most beautiful aspect of all, asset division doesn't exist in some Islamic countries. In others, it depends on jurisdiction, which usually isn't abusive towards the man, unlike in the West where they'll take everything they can and make you pay alimony. If what marriage in the West offered me was like this, along with a devout wife who rarely divorces because divorce rates are the lowest in the world, then I wouldn't mind if you didn't take my surname. But if you don't offer me these privileges, not even a prenup, then where do I gain in marrying you? Don't you think so, brothers?
I was watching a TikTok earlier and the lady, her stitches were turned off. If you happen to see it, please tag her. But she was basically putting a question out, why in 2023 are women still trying to take their husband's name? I'm gonna come at this from a completely different angle. Where I live, actually, we're not allowed to change our names. Or if you did want to change your name, it's a lengthy, almost impossible process. When I got married, there was no one taking anyone's name. So the only one who has my husband's family name is my daughter. If I could, I would have taken his name. I would have taken anyone's name. Okay, maybe not anyone. And the reason I say this is because I have obviously my father's last name, but he has never been in my life, ever. And I remember in my teens, I was inquiring of how I can change my name to my mom's last name because, again, I have, at least growing up, really, I don't have a connection to that side of my family. Now, after, bumping into siblings and being able to meet more family randomly with no help to him, is how I was able to piece together kind of my dad's side. And ultimately, I remember clearly thinking that, I want to change my name. I don't know why I have this person's last name because I don't feel a connection. And then now when I got married, I remember the pastor was telling us that, listen, if you did want to take your husband's last name, you can go into the neighboring province, Ontario, and have like, you know, just a ceremony at the court or whatever it is, and then come back and do everything here if you really did want to take his name. And I remember at that point very clearly being like, is this something I really want? Like, I remember entertaining my husband was like, it's not that serious. And I was like, for you, ultimately now it is what it is. But not that I feel left out, but I just feel like I don't match because my husband and my daughter, they both have the same last name. Like if we're traveling in our passports, I know it's not that serious, but listen, do whatever it is that you want to do. But like I said, coming at this from a different perspective, that I would gladly have taken his name. And he has a beautiful last name too.
Absolutely, because it's not a family. It's two separate people living together. For that, it's better to just live together without getting married. What's the point of marrying if we won't even have the same surname, which doesn't allow us to be called Mr. and Mrs. whatever the surname is? Also, when my children with my surname are called and you show up with another name, what will you say? This is why I say men these days don't want to get married. When you take away all the privileges that make marriage beautiful for him, let's be honest, if I don't marry you, I'll still sleep with you, we'll still live together, we'll still have children, and I'll be more protected in case you come after my assets, and my children will have my surname. But she doesn't want to lose anything or sacrifice anything ever. That's why I say the only one who marries for love is the man. The woman marries for a lifestyle. She'll win at everything. In the end, you feel like a man that she was never really yours. She just sold you a dream, a moment in her presence, and that your marriage was a sham because you weren't even legally married in front of society. Let's watch the other video. I'll explain it better there.
One of my biggest regrets, and one that I'm still living with the implications of today, is taking my ex-husband's last name. Now bear with me because it's not fun to talk about things not working out possibly. But with these traditions that we're carrying on into our lives, this one life that we have to live, we need to be so intentional and think about the origins and what they truly mean. What are we taking part of? Just because it's the norm doesn't mean that it's right or that it's something that we should do. And I wish I had that mentality when I was 19 and I got married, but I didn't. I was a young little girl in love. I took his last name. I felt like part of my identity was lost. I grieved it, but I did it anyway because it was right. It was what I was supposed to do in order to be a family. I had kids, 3 kids, gave them his last name because he needed to carry on his legacy or whatever. The problem was 15 years later when I went into divorce, and it hit me like a freight train that if I wanted to change my name back to my maiden name, my true identity, the only name that I really felt like was me, because guess what? It was me. I was now gonna not have the same last name as my kids. Now here's the kicker. When I talk, I hate saying that. I say that all the time. Here's the kicker, whatever. I don't know why I say that. I only say that in videos, I think. Here's the thing. When I talk to women all the time about the possibility of keeping their maiden name, the first thing they always say to me is, well, no, I don't want to change, like, I don't want to keep my maiden name because then I won't have the same last name as my kids. I think to myself, how conditioned are we? We don't even think of another possible scenario, like the kids take our last name. Heaven forbid, we give birth to these children, we grow them inside of us, we feed them off of our bodies. We put a lot into bringing these people into the world, but it's not even a part of a possibility for them to have our last name. I really hope that changes in the future. I feel like Gen Z is so much more intentional with these things, so I have hope for the future. But let me give you 2 possible scenarios that could go wrong if you choose to give up those rights and give your husband's name to your children. One possibility is that he gets remarried again. I was sitting in court, I hear the judge say the new Mrs. and his last name, and I realized, holy cow. Now, if I change my last name back to my maiden name, the kids are gonna share a last name with her and him, and they will look like a family unit. Yeah, that's one possible scenario. Second possible scenario is that we all keep the same last name. So now he has 2 wives with the same last name. Even one's an ex, but we all are sharing the same last name. That's not very comfortable either. And then the third scenario is, and the only possible way to truly secure that you continue having the name as your kids, the same name as your kids, is to give them your last name from the beginning. And if your husband wants to be a part of that family unit, and it's really important to him to share the same last name, then he can take your last name. I know, so out in left field, right? Crazy, what is she thinking? But think about where these traditions are stemming from and why not. And on the other side, I don't believe you have to share the same last name to be a family unit. I currently have my maiden name. I'm married to a man who has his maiden name, and the kids have their dad's last name. We're a happy family.
Watch this simple trick closely. Don't ever buy another pair of glasses until you see what this invention can do. These self-adjustable...
This is the problem with women when they become feminists. At first, she said she married for love, took her husband's surname, but when she got divorced, she went back to her maiden name, developed hatred towards her ex-husband. She envies that her 3 children, whom her husband supported all their lives, carry his surname, and she doesn't share it with her maiden name because they are the legacy of that man who will surely leave them a better inheritance than her. In a world where only the woman knows the child is hers, where she gets offended if the man asks for a DNA test, they also want the children he has to support not to have his surname but hers. Of course, you will have the obligation to support them for 18 years, while she only had to do it for 9 months. But you, 18 years. You'll have the burden but not the authority, and we all know that responsibility without authority is simply slavery. This is the advice of a divorced woman who in another video tried to screw her ex-husband in a divorce. Because of things like this, I say Western women have become masculine. I bet if you put her surname instead of yours and make a will stating that only those who share your surname, including the wife, will receive the inheritance, she would scream bloody murder and even try to change it because she doesn't want to lose in anything. When before, the first child carrying the father's name and surname was a blessing. Now they want to take that right away from the man. Brothers, where is the benefit of getting married? We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. What do you think about women not taking their husband's surname? Would you be okay with getting married and your family having 2 last names instead of yours? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.
Listen, I'm just saying, I know how I feel and I know my worth. So if I sit here and I tell you this is what I want and you can't give me that, it's okay. It's no problem. But I'm gonna go find it.
Welcome to the wall. In today's video, we'll be discussing single mothers and why it's a bad idea to date them. We'll cover how a woman tells the father of her children that $2,200 in child support isn't enough and forbids him from seeing his son. We invite you to smash that like button. Let's support the movement. Subscribe to the channel. That's the only contribution we're asking from you, guys. Add your bit to the movement, share your experiences in the comments for any man who might need it. And without further ado, let's get started.
This comment right here.
And what about that comment?
I really don't think that he's speaking for all men.
Of course, there are always exceptions, but they are most certainly speaking for the vast majority of men.
Because I know that there will be somebody that steps up one day to be some sort of father figure for my child.
It's very possible. However, do bear in mind that women with children are not at the top of a man's dating priority list. They are in fact near the bottom.
It's also very, I'm very surprised that you felt comfortable actually typing this out and commenting on someone's video.
I'm actually surprised that one didn't already realize that most men actually felt that way.
It's just the wildest thing.
No, it's not. It's actually almost common sense.
You don't know my circumstances with my child, or his father.
Well, that's true. Not every single mother has 2 or 3 baby daddies, and some single mothers are the product of being widowed or are divorced. However, the fact remains the same that most men do not want to raise another man's child.
Yeah, that's basically it. So, hopefully he's not speaking for all men out there, but this was just really disappointing to see.
Reality often can be very disappointing, can't it? But no, unfortunately, that person does actually speak for the majority of men.
Don't even think about life insurance until you've heard this. You know, many people in the life insurance industry are absolutely furious about this little-known policy that's really rocked the industry with its immediate day one cover. See, you can now get up to £300,000 to help cover any debts like a mortgage or perhaps leave a substantial gift to your family, and of course help cover any funeral costs as well, with immediate coverage from day one for any accidental death, giving you peace of mind right away. Unlike other providers, there are no intrusive blood tests. Now, nearly everyone can qualify for guaranteed low-cost coverage, even if you're a smoker. This is an absolute must if you want to help protect your loved ones from outrageous skyrocketing costs. And these new plans start from as little as £2.50 a week. That's what, just 30...
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 hell no.
Single mothers get upset when a man tells them the truth because many think that a man is happy raising another man's seed, Chad's seed. But the reality is that no man, at least no one I know, wants to raise another man's sin. I get it. Some look good, and you want to have your fun nights. But the reality is that they are a well-set trap. Many still have attachments to their ex-husband, especially when the child is under 5 years old. That Chad will continue to circle back to his woman. I don't see it as bad if the woman is a widow and never divorced. At least she appears faithful. But if a woman is divorced, even with children from the man, that's already a bad sign. If she has children from different men, that's a terrible sign. If, from the moment you start dating her, she begins to throw the responsibility of another man's sin on you, brother, run away from there. It's a ticking time bomb. I do not recommend going to get milk from another farmer's cow. Buy your own cow. If you doubt this, watch the next video.
I don't know if you guys know, but I was a stepdaddy. I did everything for this girl. I fed her child. I treated her good. I gave her a home, paid her bills, everything for free, free car, gas money, everything. I bought that car seat, matter of fact. I bought her daughter clothes. I bought her dad food, everything. Just for her to go cheat on me with the father of the baby. Lesson learned, guys. Don't ever trust a fucking bitch. I fixed that shit. She fucked it up. I fixed it. I tried my best to fix that. I bought her that. I put gas in it. I did everything. Everything that's in here, I fucking bought it. She lived with me rent free, nothing. For her to fucking cheat on me, bro. That's a fucking learning, guys. Don't ever trust a fucking bitch. All that over some fucking dicks. Well, you guys, oh my god, basically, you know, yeah, she's kind of famous on TikTok. Nigga, she's not the person who you think she is. Everybody go fucking hate on this bitch, nigga. Real niggas like me. Real niggas like me don't deserve this shit. Real niggas like me don't deserve this shit, bro. Fucking bitch, nigga. Never again, never in my fucking life, nigga. Fucking bitch, bro. Never a fucking again, nigga. Fuck this fucking bitch, bro. On my mama, bro. I did everything for her, just for her to lose to me. Never in my fucking life. Show your fucking face.
What?
Never again, bro. Wow.
The guys that limit girls because they have kids, fuck them.
No.
It's like, fuck those type of
But
dudes.
let me
it's
tell you
like,
why.
It's like, you know what? Us women with kids, we know how to hustle. We're smart. We get jobs done.
You bring a man in a relationship when you have a son, are you going to put him before your son?
Absolutely not.
There you go. Bingo.
Me personally, I would tell men that if you don't have children yourself, don't go dating a woman that has children. But what's unfortunate is there are relationships that the woman has children, the man doesn't, and unfortunately, he gets screwed over just like that person did. So for all the women out there, all the single mothers out there that get so triggered and so angry at the fact that a lot of these men like this are waking up and saying, I don't want to date a single mother. It's because of women like that first video. These guys that actually open up their homes and open up their wallets to take care of you and your child or children, and you decide to screw them over after the fact, why would anybody want to put themselves in that situation again? Or if they see a friend that goes through it, a relative that goes through it, why would they want to take that chance to get taken advantage?
My father once told me, never build your house on your father-in-law's land, because the day he wants you to leave, you'll be without a wife and without a house. You'll just lose your investment. The same goes with a single mother. That child isn't yours. You will just be investing in the care of another man's seed. When that man wants to come back to his woman, you will simply be collateral damage. You can see the pain in this man, Of course it hurts. You fall in love with a woman, you give her your trust, you give everything to make sure she's okay. You take care of her children, feed them, treat them as if they were your own, only for her to repay you by cheating on you with the father of her child. Then she will leave, taking your manhood because she cheated on you. All that you did for her, with the love and care you put into her children whom you will never see again. They made you play house when the house was never yours.
Humanity is shackled. I will find the key.
Genial. Otro trabajo aburrido.
You know
Remember,
yourself.
if you want me to heal you, stand very still.
I
But
put my
also,
faith in science.
avoid their bullets.
I put my faith in science. I'll see this matter resolved.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
You cannot escape me. No opposition is insurmountable.
Target in sight.
Progress is seldom won with ease. I see a hostile. Understood. Sails of a hope. The point is vulnerable. Let us take it. I've dealt with cynics before.
Got an enemy here.
Humanity is shackled. I will find the key.
Feels destroyed. I feel the burn. Taking the point. Who is up for a challenge?
You could still be of use to me. Taking hold of the objective. Enemy located. Tall Monsieur Wit. Easily made manifest. just pathetic.
Over here!
I understand. Transporting the payload. Your assistance is appreciated. You're slipping away. A taste of poison. Eyes open now. Where's the test of surrender to my will? Hail to Mahal!
I'm on fire!
Bothersome. Come to me and I will heal you.
Shit! Shield,
Misery made manifest. Move here if you wish to be healed.
Let them out.
Great minds are always persecuted. 60 seconds. Come to me. Why we stop? Enemy located. Lending a hand.
EMP activated.
10 seconds remaining. Progress is seldom won with ease.
Hello. Hola.
That party was boring. Hack complete. Namaste.
Hello there. Rocket one.
I aim to devastate.
EMP activated.
They outnumber us. Watch out.
Lucio coming at you.
defenses. Select your hero.
Humanity is shackled. I will find the key.
I'm definitely too old for a trip to the amusement park.
Push your limits. Nothing breaks that I cannot mend.
We must all find a cause worth fighting for.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
I see a hostile.
Everyone.
Evolution is a painful path to walk. Come to me and I will heal you. Cure for all the days. Help me. Your end is within my reach. Enhancing your vitals. I'm under attack. Much obliged. You cannot escape me.
Tango spot.
Eyes open now.
Face my burning fist.
Great minds are always persecuted. Over there, purge the enemy from our objective. Thank you. Taste of poison. They're enough nuts. My condition is improved.
They're taking the objective.
Bothersome.
Focus our defenses. Objective lost.
Hello.
Stop the payload.
That we should fail in stopping the payload has no reasonable explanation. Welcome to the pylon turret. Thank you. Enhancing your vitals.
Incoming.
Over here. I offer something more. Surrender to my will. Thank you for your contributions. What is it now? Enemy located. We must get them off the field.
My ultimate.
For all the days.
I've got meds. Who needs them?
I've dealt with cynics before. test subject.
Ladies and gentlemen. Everyone,
Now,
stop the
to
pylon.
start anew.
Keep on locking on.
Group up with me. Pain is inevitable. I see a hostile. Something more.
My ultimate is ready. Let's go.
I'll take a redo.
No opposition is insurmountable. Join with me. A taste of poison. The resilience is lacking. Enemy located. I'm under attack.
I'm on fire. I've used too much electric.
I am ready to unleash coalescence.
Join me.
Activating self-destruct sequence.
Come to me.
I'm coming, baby. Can you open the door for them?
Pain is inevitable. Join me. Mending you. Join me. Need a moment to recharge. There's a test subject. Cannot escape me.
60 seconds.
Receive. I understand.
I'm coming. Give me 5 minutes.
Your end is within my reach. I require healing. What is it now? Minds are always persecuted.
Score 0-2. Switching sides.
humanity is shackled, I will find the key.
Fruition comes from within, as does failure.
There's always science to be done.
Push your limits. Nothing breaks that I cannot mend.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Group up with me.
Commencing.
If it must be done, let it be done quickly.
Hostile here.
Misery made manifest. Lending a hand. Cure for all the days. 'em to join me.